You're getting a special dose of the Rip City Drive on this Thursday morning. Chad doing with you, and I hope you're enjoying your Thursday morning. When I was outside, I went down the hill to get a cup of coffee, and it was very nice, and now all of a sudden the cloud covers come in, but we are entering into the springtime, and summertime's right around the corner. But today's a big day for the Portland Trail Blazers as they have returned home from San Antonio following their Game 5 loss to the Spurs. And now they will conduct their exit interviews, and we're going to have live coverage here with a special edition of the Rip City Drive. And there's so many big questions as we get ready to enter the offseason for the Portland Trail Blazers. One interesting note, and I know a lot of people have asked me about it, the draft that's going to be coming up in June, the Trail Blazers do not have a draft pick in the first round or the second round because they became a postseason participant as the 7th seed. Their pick conveys to Chicago as part of the the Larry Nash Jr. deal. And so with that, the Blazers have no draft picks. Shortly after that, we'll enter into free agency. And, of course, there's a lot of speculation around the league right now that the Blazers are going to go big game hunting and look to go after some potential big names. And, of course, they've got tools to work with now with draft picks. The cupboard has been restocked by Joe Cronin, and they've also got some veteran contracts that could be moved out. And they have some young pieces. So the Blazers have a lot to work with as they enter into the offseason to improve their roster. And, of course, this team now is on an upward trajectory with their young core, with Deni Avdija, and they'll get the return of Damian Lillard at the start of next season, which is going to be pretty sweet. So a lot of things to look forward to. Unbelievable. All right, we're going to hear from everyone today. We'll react, and we'll get a chance to hear from Joe Cronin. We'll hear from Thiago Splitter and the players, and then in between the press questions, I will, give my assessment of each individual. And I like some of the things they had to say coming out of the series against San Antonio, especially Donovan Clingan, who was so honest in his assessment about how he did not play well in the series, how it was a learning experience, and how he's going to use that as fuel to power him throughout the course of the offseason. And I think that's going to be interesting. Also, the comments, from Thiago Splitter on Shaedon Sharpe, who played few minutes in Game 5. His defense was not good. And you wonder if the Blazers go big game hunting, if they go after a player like Giannis or Kawhi or maybe Kevin Durant or any of the other big names that might, surface as possibilities, if they can include some of their young players in a potential deal. Maybe Shaedon Sharpe. What about Scoot Henderson? And also with the new owner, Tom Dundon, how aggressive does he want to be? I think there's a lot of things to consider as we enter into the offseason. But the best part is now, unlike the previous 3 to 4 seasons, there's youth, there's talent. This team's coming off a wildly successful season. And so now I think the expectation moving forward is postseason participant, and you do each and everything that you possibly can throughout the course of the offseason to take another step, to get to a different level so you can become more of a perennial playoff contender in the Western Conference, which is really deep because you've got Oklahoma City, you've got the San Antonio Spurs, and you've got other teams that you're challenging with that are obviously really good. And we've got more playoff games coming up tonight. We have an NBA playoff triple header. So there's going to be a lot of games to keep an eye on. At 4 o'clock on ESPN, the Knicks and Hawks. New York favored by 2.5. That series, New York with a 3-2 series lead after taking game number 5 at Madison Square Garden. Also game 6, Celtics at Sixers tonight. Boston favored by 6.5. They have a 3-2 series lead after Philadelphia upset them in game 5 in Boston. And then at 6:30 on ESPN, the Nuggets and Timberwolves in Minnesota. A 6.5-point dog. They have a 3-2 series lead. They have a chance to close out Denver tonight. And the interesting part there is that they're playing without a number of their key guys, especially Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo. And so there's a lot of things out there. So we'll see how things continue to shake out. Tomorrow you've got Orlando playing at home with the chance to, take out the Detroit Pistons, who are the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference and by far the best team throughout the course of the season. All right, let's head over to the practice facility. Jrue Holiday is now at the podium, ready to answer questions.
Jrue, just what your main takeaways from the season, obviously your first year in Portland, just how do you leave this one, I guess?
I love the season. I think we had a good season. I think a lot of people didn't expect us to get to where we got to and battle against a good team like the Spurs. Had a chance there to win a couple games that didn't go our way, but I think all in all, through the ups and downs and kind of how the season started, I think we did a great job.
What do you think the team's missing to kind of take that next step?
I think the experience helped. I think being able to play in the playoffs and battle in the play-in in general, battle before that to get into the play-in, all that stuff I feel like shows our character and kind of where we're going and what we're pushing for. But what we need, again, I think it's just a little bit more experience to be able to go here and compete with some of the best teams.
It strikes me that you're sitting right where you were standing when you came in here to do media when you came over here for the first time. Is there anything you thought when you were standing here that was different about this season than what you originally thought when you came in?
The winners weren't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Was it a mild winter? Yeah. Okay, that was cool with me. I think besides that, I'm not really sure I have anything. I don't think I had an expectation on it besides making the playoffs and or just elevating from last season, being able to say that we did what we were supposed to do. And I feel like we fought. I feel like everybody on this team, from top of the organization to the bottom, everybody did a great job of fighting and making this season a good season for all of us.
Jrue, when you look at when you first got here to today, considering everything the team's been through with Chauncey, Thiago, injuries, everything else, do you feel like you guys surpassed expectations, met expectations? Kind of where do you think that from day one, where do you think you are now?
I mean, I don't think anybody expected us to be maybe 7 seed and fight against the Spurs like that. So maybe for their expectations, but I think for us, we're here to win, and I feel like the chemistry was built from the first day that I got here. Even with Chauncey being here, Chauncey being a catalyst for that, being a reason why a lot of us were here in the first place. So him kind of setting the foundation, being able to know that we're going to be a team and a family. And then, again, we see the last week, 2 games possibly could have gone a different way, and we could still be playing basketball right now. So, again, just really excited and happy about how the season went.
Jrue, something like the Chauncey thing, big national scandal like that, how do you, what do you attribute it to that didn't ever become really a distraction within the locker room, within the organization, and just kind of went away, something like that, even though it could have derailed the season?
Character. Character. I think a lot of guys, not a lot of people in this organization have great character, have integrity, and even just knowing that even for Chauncey would want us to keep going. The things that he built here and established here, he'd want us to still succeed. But I think it all attributes to the people that we have in this organization, how great of humans they are, to be able to still fight through hard times and know that there might be criticism and all the damn betting and tipping meetings that we have and had and all that. But just knowing that, like, our job here is to play basketball and to be the best basketball team we can.
Obviously, point guard-wise, things are going to look a bit different next year with this team. Do you see yourself being a part of this team with Damian coming back, or what are your thoughts on that?
I hope so. I don't like being traded and moved and stuff. I like being a part of something and building with the team and seeing the progress and going through the progress with them. So I hope so. I'd love to be here.
What excites you about the future?
Honestly, just kind of how we ended the season, fighting and clawing, knowing that we have a team that has proven ourselves to some extent to be a playoff team, and then even we have a good mix of older gentlemen and then young guys that are still hungry. I mean, you hear them; they're still in the gym now, and it's been 2 days after we lost the playoffs. So I'm really excited for that.
There's a lot of uncertainty with Thiago and just the coaching situation. How would you describe the job he's done, and what's your take on that whole situation?
I love Thiago. I think him being able to step into a role that has like some big shoes to fill, being able to rally us together and push through a season of literally since game one, and make the 7 seed has been great. I think we've learned together. Coaching staff has grown together with the players and everyone else. But I love Thiago and the way that he's pushed us this whole season. And I think for him, he's probably exceeded people's expectations too, coming into a role in this type of situation.
Was everybody completely laser focused, or was there anybody thinking, I want Dame out here right now?
I mean, I think everybody wants Dame out here right now. Why wouldn't? I think he would help us out tremendously. But I also think that we were locked into what we were supposed to do, which was the Spurs, them being a good team, them having Wemby and Castle and Fox. This being our first playoff experience as a team, and for a lot of guys, the first playoff experience in general. I think we did a good job.
How would you assess Scoot's play once he finally arrived, and just maybe his future? What does he still have to show?
I think when Scoot got comfortable, you saw what Scoot is capable of, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think him getting a full season of being healthy, going out there and really playing against guys and showing off his playmaking ability, showing off his scoring ability, showing off how tough he is, especially in great games in the playoffs where these are some of the biggest games of our careers. In some of the most crucial moments, he's stepped up to the plate. So I think he has a bright future.
Doing good?
Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Drew.
All right, there's Jrue Holiday of your Portland Trailblazers. All I can tell you is that he is one of the best people I've ever covered in the NBA. He is a leader, an effective communicator, a terrific teammate. He's somebody you want representing your franchise. He is awesome, and I hope he does come back. And, of course, the great thing about him, even with Dame returning to action next year, he can play with anyone on the court. He has the ability to play with the ball in his hands, without the ball in his hands. He can do everything. So Jrue Holiday is exactly what you want in a basketball player. The guy's tremendous. One of the absolute best humans I've ever covered in the NBA. All right, this is a special edition of the Rip City Drive as we cover exit interview days with the Portland Trailblazers. Jrue Holiday just spoke to the media, and we're going to hear from all the players. Joe Cronin will speak. We'll also hear from Thiago Splitter. Of course, a lot of questions around his future and whether or not he'll get an opportunity to be the full-time head coach of the Portland Trailblazers. We're going to step aside, and when we come back, we'll hear more from the practice facility as the Blazers wrap up their season with exit interviews. And you can reach out to me. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. So you can jump on board if you want to comment. You got any thoughts on the season or what you want to see this team do as they move into the offseason? No draft picks this year, but they've got a lot of tools to work with to be able to improve this team to get them to the next level. All right, exit interview day. We're going to hear from everybody, including Joe Cronin and Thiago Splitter here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
And, towards the end, had the little fracture or whatever. But I think overall, season went pretty well. Team, I think we're growing as a team. Happy where we're going. Excited for the future.
Did the injury linger in the playoffs, or were you perfectly healed by then?
Nah, I was good. I was good.
So you feel 100% physically right now?
Yeah, I feel good. I'm ready for the off season. Just get back working.
What areas do you feel like you grew the most this year?
I don't know. I think just my overall game, just getting my teammates involved. Attacking the rim, trying to find my spots on the court. There's always room for improvement, though.
What are you going to be doing this offseason? What are you going to be working on? What are you going to be doing?
First, I'm taking vacation. Need some time away from ball. I'm probably going to be in Phoenix just working out.
What's your focus? Is there anything in particular, or just?
Just staying healthy, getting stronger. And then my overall game, just working on catch and shoots, pick and roll. Just my overall game for real.
What was the message from Joe and Thiago in your interview?
That I just had now? Stick with it. We're heading in the right direction. They're also excited for the future and, what it holds. Just keep working on my game and, yeah.
What was your reaction to kind of the reduced role that you had in the playoffs compared to how much you were playing in the regular season?
It was frustrating, but I was ready. I was ready to just compete and help my team and yeah.
Shay, when you look at that, is that something that can be a driving factor for you, so that doesn't happen to you again?
Yeah, for sure. During the offseason, I'm gonna just keep working on my game. Try and get better, and just help this team win.
Did Thiago explain why he made that decision during the playoffs?
Yeah, he did.
Share a little bit about that, or?
I'd rather not. I think that's just me and Thiago's conversation ahead, and we'll grow from this, and I'll be better. So.
Shay, question about experience. Jrue was just talking about this. The postseason was good for the experience of this team. I'm curious about the mentality part, the mind part of the game. What did you learn this postseason that will help you grow mentally?
It's a long season, especially with the playoffs. It being my first playoff series, and some of the other guys. It's a long season, 82 plus some other games. So just staying poised and sticking with it, and just having that mindset to always come in and compete. So.
What do you think you'll remember most from this season?
Probably just the memories with the guys off the court. We have a great group of guys here, and just being off court and bonding with them. Probably just remember that.
What was it like to have that clip go viral where Thiago identified the play that they were going to run for Wemby? And I know that happens all the time in game, but just what was it like for you to have that clip go viral?
What go viral?
You didn't? Okay.
What happened?
He identified a play that they were going to run for Wemby in the game and shouted it out to you, and then they ended up running the play, and I forget what exactly happened, but.
What that play? I don't know. I don't know.
Any other questions?
All right, there's Shaedon Sharpe. Like usual, Shaedon is not a man of many words, and I don't hold that against him at all. I think a lot of people don't really understand Shaedon because he's got such a calm demeanor. He's very laid back. He doesn't appear to feel too much pressure, but I know he cares, and I know he's got the ability to be able to become an even better basketball player. He did not expand on the conversation between him and Thiago Splitter. He said, hey, that's something I just want to keep between the two of us. But, from what I've heard and what the speculation is, it comes down to defense. And we heard Thiago Splitter's comments after the Game 5 down in San Antonio. That's why he wasn't on the floor. He struggled defensively throughout the course of the series. And I think we all know that for Shaedon Sharpe, in order for him to be on the floor, to get more time, and to continue to be effective for the Trailblazers, it's going to require more on that end. Defense. That's what it's going to come down to. He's a great shot maker. He's great on offense. He's creative. He can shoot the three. He can put the ball on the floor and attack the rim. He's good in the mid-range. Like, offensively, he's going to continue to improve and get better. But for Shaedon Sharpe, in order to get more time and to be trusted by the coaching staff, it's going to come down to defense for him. And that competitive desire continuing to show up night in and night out on the defensive end of the floor. And that was the big question for Shaedon, coming off of last season. It was, could he remain engaged defensively for longer stretches to be more effective defensively? That was the big question with Shaedon Sharpe. It's not about the offense. He's got the ability to score at all three levels, and he's great in transition. And I'm just excited to see, the growth with him moving forward. But it's going to come defensively. And he had some good moments. He was the one that was on Devin Booker late in that playing game against Phoenix, where he had to step up and force Booker into a tough shot. And he did. And the ball came up short. The Blazers got the rebound. And that allowed Deni Avdija to have an opportunity to win the game, and he did. So we see it in spurts with Shaedon Sharpe, but it's just going to require, more consistency on both ends, but in particular on defense. And I also think that both players, Scoot and Shaedon, one of the big things that's held them back has been the nagging injuries, where they haven't been able to be on the floor for an entire season. And I think that downtime where they're off the floor dealing with injury, it just stunts their growth a little bit. And so for Shaedon Sharpe, I know it's got to be really frustrating because he wants to be able to, play and be effective, as does Scoot. But when they're not on the floor and they're not getting the reps, they're not out there with their teammates, it slows their development progress. And so, being healthy is critical. One of the keys for Donovan Clingan this year was just relative health. He played most of the season. He was able to play larger minutes because he got himself into great condition. And because he was able to be on the floor more, he became a more effective player for the Blazers. And look at the growth, right? Same thing with Toumani Camara. He had his struggles, but he was also one of 5 players in the NBA to start and play in every single game. And that availability is key. So for Scoot and Shaedon, continuing to work on their bodies, figure everything out physically so that they can be available and be able to play for an entire season is going to be key. And the problem is with Scoot, same thing. He had a great offseason of work. I mean, the team was really pleased with his progress coming off of last season, especially on the defensive end. He put in a lot of work, a lot of time, and was showing vast improvement during the offseason. And then he rips up the hamstring, and he misses, half the season. And that's a detriment to his growth and his progress. And same thing with Shaedon Sharpe. I think what we got to remember too, because people get frustrated with, Scoot and Shaedon because they don't see the constant upward trajectory on their careers. They're really young. We're talking about young players with limited experience on the NBA level. And for a lot of these young guys, it takes time. And some guys, it takes longer than others. So I think it does require a little bit of patience. I also think that Shaedon Sharpe, because of the deal that he's on and the extension he signed being very team-friendly, I would say that he is one of the players that could be utilized if they decide to go out and go big game hunting. There could be a team out there looking for a young scoring guard, someone that can provide that punch like Shaedon. And because his contract is what it is, he could be, a key part of that. But I also know that if the front office remains intact, guys who are drafted near the top of the draft, high first-round picks, front offices don't give up on those type of players too often. They're going to give them all the time that they possibly can to showcase what they can do so they're able to go out there and hopefully eventually perform at the level that the team anticipated when they drafted him. All right, special edition of the Rip City Drive on this Thursday morning. It's exit interview day for the Trailblazers. So we're going to hear from all the players. So far we've heard from Jrue Holiday and then Shaedon Sharpe. We'll hear from the rest of the players. We're also going to hear from Joe Cronin. We'll hear from Thiago Splitter. And as I mentioned, this is one of the biggest off seasons that we've seen in Trailblazer land in quite some time. And that's because we have a brand new owner in Tom Dundon. We're all trying to figure out what type of changes he's looking for. How aggressive does he want to be when it comes to continuing to build the roster? What about Thiago Splitter? Is he going to return as the full-time head coach? For me, I think Thiago Splitter has proven himself as a guy that is worthy of that position because of all the different things that he dealt with throughout the course of the season. Imagine coming in as an assistant. You're in your first year with the team, and after game number 1, the head coach is arrested by the FBI, and you're forced to take over as the acting head coach with no NBA head coaching experience. Can you imagine being thrown into that, pressure cooker? And yet he handled it with grace. He navigated the team through multiple, bouts with adversity, especially with all the injuries, top 5 in games lost due to injury. And I think the most important thing that we saw from Thiago, and I think it's one of the most important traits you can have as an NBA head coach, is getting guys to buy in and do what you want them to do. I mean, that's the most important thing you need to do as an NBA head coach, is getting guys who make a lot of money to do what you need them to do. And Thiago Splitter was able to do that. They responded to his voice. They respect him. We heard that from Jrue Holiday a few minutes ago. I think they want Thiago Splitter back. But most importantly, Thiago Splitter's got a way to connect with them and get them to play hard and to do the things that he wants. You need that buy-in. You need role acceptance. You need guys who will listen to the coach and go out there and try and execute the game plan. It's critical. And Thiago Splitter, I think it's partly because he's not too far removed from the game. He obviously comes from a great culture during his time in the NBA with the Spurs and Greg Popovich. He's got championship experience, but not being too far removed and still having a good idea of how players think, the way they see the world. That he understands what it's like to be them. I think that helps them. I also like it, too, because he's got a young center in Donovan Clingan. And I think Donovan enjoys, having a head coach who played the same position that he did. So they kind of talk the same language. He can help with the bigs and their continued development. So I like that aspect that he brings to the club as well. Telephone number is 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. If you want to reach out and jump on board, you can do so. We're going to listen to all the exit interviews. So if you're tuning in for Colin Cowherd, you've got me on a special edition of the Rip City Drive as we continue to piece everything together. As I mentioned for the Blazers, no draft picks, not in the first round, not in the second round. So the big news for the Blazers is going to come around, 2 main events. The head coaching search and where they end up. Is it going to be Thiago Splitter or somebody else? And then on top of that, it's going to come down to free agency. When we get around the draft, right before the start of free agency in July, that's where the trades could really start to happen. And if the Blazers decide to go big game hunting, they've got the tools to be able to work with. And I think that's part of the excitement. The internal development and the growth we're seeing in the young core. We got the return of Damian Lillard next season. And then you look to what they've got to work with now. They've got valuable veteran contracts. They've got some young pieces, and they've got draft picks because Joe Cronin has been able to restock the cupboard. So they've got plenty of tools to work with that are high value, to where if they decide to go out there and make some, major moves or attempt to make some major moves in the trade market, they've got the ability to do that. And the reason why that's exciting is that if you look at the trajectory of the team, 6 more wins than the previous season. They had a winning record at 42-40. They were able to get through the play-in, win their first game against Phoenix, and get into the postseason as the 7th seed in the Western Conference. And I still maintain that had they remained healthy throughout the course of the season, they would have won 50 games. And then you look at a team that's got the ability to go out and add to the roster. I think that's going to be important. In terms of position groups, I think guard is where you have the biggest questions, right? Because you got the 2 young guys who were drafted in the first round in Scoot and Shaedon. You've got the veteran in Jrue Holiday, who was vital to their play down the stretch. Thiago Splitter clearly trusted Jrue Holiday, and for good reason. He was very productive in the playoff series. So you've got him. You've got Damian Lillard, who's going to make his return. So you've got 4 guards right there with those players. The problem is that you only have so many minutes in a basketball game. So how are you going to get the minutes to the guys that you need to develop and yet still be able to play your veteran guys like Jrue and Dame? So I would imagine you're going to need some type of consolidation with your backcourt because there's not enough minutes to go around. So that's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, you know who your key players are moving forward. I would say the 3 key guys right now of your young core, it's Deni Avdija, who is the team MVP and their best player. Donovan Clingan, aside from the fact that he struggled in the series against San Antonio, he was ultra productive this year and improved in every aspect of his game. And then Toumani Camara, who did not have a good shooting series against San Antonio, but defensively He is locked in. He was terrific throughout the course of the season. He creates havoc out there. He's a great competitor. And most importantly, he is healthy. And he's an Iron Man. And he played in every single game. He started in every single game. So I think those three right there are basically untouchable. Donovan, Toumani, and Deni. And then after that, you can take a look at, potential maneuvers. One guy I would like to see them make an effort to bring back would be Robert Williams III. And I would think at this stage in his career, and he's had a chance to compete at a high level with the Boston Celtics, he's finally found a team that's got a training staff that understands his body, how many minutes he needs to play, what they need to do in terms of rest to keep him in a position to be able to compete at his highest level. And they just found the right balance. And I think that's good for him. So I would imagine that you can probably get a good deal with Robert Williams III and bring him back. I like that tandem of Donovan Clingan and Robert Williams III because they play well together. Donovan can start. Robert Williams is able to fill the minutes off the bench. And I think for him, confidence-wise, having a full season where he was healthy and able to contribute, he's going to have to feel good mentally, emotionally, spiritually getting ready for next year. He's going to be a free agent. The Blazers are going to have to make a decision on him, but I would like to see him come back. And you can probably get him at a relative value compared to other guys who play that position because he's not going to play, 35 to 40 minutes a night. He's going to play 15 to 20 minutes a night. He's not going to play in the second of back-to-backs. But he'll be able to be available throughout the course of the year like we saw this year. And his health and being able to find that balance was great. And the Trailblazers training staff took a lot of criticism, from, fans throughout the course of the year. But in the end, they did a great job with Robert Williams III. Let's go out to Bob, who is in Hillsborough, wants to chime in. Bob, I appreciate the call. You're up on the Rip City Drive. What's on your mind?
Yeah, the Blazers made the playoffs. Thank goodness for that after not, knowing what the playoffs are about. So the team gains some experience going forward. It's going to help them. That's a plus. This team's been without a power forward, Chad, since LaMarcus Aldridge left. That's been 10 years. 10 years. And this team has no power forward. They still don't have one. Until the team, they got a center now. Donovan Clingan, that's great. Toumani Camara, the other players you mentioned, that's great. You've got to get a power forward. I don't know how you make that happen. Free agents, Portland's not on their destination map. They don't want to come and play in Portland. So they've had to draft players. I get that. We understand that. But going 10 years without a power forward, that's unbelievable. How much longer are we going to watch this team play basketball without a power forward? That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, Bob, I appreciate it. Yeah, they haven't really been able to solve that riddle ever since LaMarcus left for San Antonio. My argument to that would be that with the changing of the NBA game and the way that a lot of teams are going small, and you want guys on the floor who can run and be able to space the floor, it may not be as of a critical need as it was in the past. But you're right. I would identify Toumani and Deni Avdija more as small forwards than I would power forwards, of course. I mean, heck, Deni can play guard. They're more guard/threes than they are power forwards. And no, they don't have a legit power forward on the team. That is true. But I think most importantly for the Blazers right now is just continuing to find those guys who are long and athletic, who can defend and be able to shoot. The most important thing they need aside from a power forward in the offseason is guys who can, shoot the rock. They attempted, they were, right up near the top in terms of three-point attempts per game, but the problem is they were near the bottom in terms of percentage. And you simply have to be able to make more shots if you're going to win. And we saw that as a primary issue in the series with San Antonio. In Game 5, they came back and made it a single-digit game in the fourth quarter by showing that competitive desire and the fight that we've seen throughout the course of the season. But the problem is, in the first half, they trailed by as much as 28. And at halftime, they were shooting below 40 from the field and just 4 of 21 from downtown. And that's just simply not going to be good enough against the best teams in the NBA. You've got to be able to make shots. You've got to be able to make threes. And the Blazers don't have enough guys on the roster who can do that. You got to be able to shoot. And they don't have enough consistent shooters on the floor who can knock it down. That's why internal development's going to be critical. Toumani Camara has to continue to work on his game so he doesn't become a reluctant shooter in the postseason. And the Blazers have to go out and find guys who can fill it up, who can knock down shots. Now, the return of Damian Lillard is going to be critical because he can do it. He's a great shooter, and he's a guy that can stretch the defense. He can provide space for guys like Deni Avdija because you have to honor Dame's ability to shoot the three. My big question with Dame is, will he be able to alter his game to where he doesn't need the ball in his hands at all times so that when he's on the floor with Deni Avdija, he can be the benefactor of Deni's ability to drive, get the defense to collapse, and then receive the kick-out pass. If Dame is able to adjust his role and have the ball in his hands less, then he's going to become an effective player playing with Deni Avdija. But it's going to require some adjustment because you don't want Deni on the floor with Dame and then Deni not have the ball in his hands, because Deni has proven to be at his best when he's able to, attack, create for his teammates, get to the foul line, and you want to be able to keep that up. But they've got a full off season and training camp and everything to be able to, work out some of the wrinkles there. All right, it's exit interview day. We've heard from Jrue Holiday and Shaedon Sharpe. We got all the players coming up, including Joe Cronin and Thiago Splitter. And you're going to hear it all live right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Chad doing with you. You can call 503-248-0620. Special edition of the Rip City Drive on exit interview day with your Trailblazers here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, you're welcome to jump on board. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I'd be happy to take your thoughts on the season, what you would like to see this team accomplish during the offseason, and what about Thiago Splitter? Would you bring him back as head coach, or do you want Tom Dundon to go in a different direction? All right, let's head back to the practice facility. The big man, Donovan Clingan, ready to talk to the media.
Well, Mr. Clingan, in general, how do you come away from this season? Your thoughts on how you played and how the team played, and just kind of how the season played out for you guys.
I feel like we did a lot of great things. We won more games than last year. We made the playoffs. We got better. We connected as a whole group. We created relationships that are gonna last forever. I feel like it's a really special team. With the coaching staff, everyone included, it was a fun year. It was a good year. But there definitely is a lot to learn from this year.
What would you say maybe one of the biggest things you learned this year was?
I feel like that every game counts, every minute counts, especially going through the playoffs. They're hard-fought games, so making sure you're prepared, you're mentally ready, and you go out there and you play a full 48 minutes. I feel like it's something that personally I definitely will take away from this.
You kind of went into last off season wanting to redefine your body and get in better shape and all that. What will be your focus this summer? What will be your biggest things you're working on?
Getting stronger, getting faster, being able to move my feet. Defending the perimeter more, working on my touch, in that mid-paint section, and making sure the three ball's consistent. But I feel like just movement, being able to move faster, better, being able to pump fake and attack the rim off the three-point line. There's a lot of things that I want to work on and I want to get better at. But obviously it's not all going to happen at once. But there's going to be a lot of time in the gym this summer.
So how do you go about that? I mean, that sounds like a lot of agility and athleticism. I mean, is that just...
Yeah, just in the weight room, working on footwork, playing ones against guards, just constantly working and doing whatever I can to, make my feet quicker. It's working out on the beach or, whatever it is.
There were a lot of things that this team had to deal with this season from before the season even started all the way up to now that really did not have a whole lot to do with the basketball court, but you guys still were able to improve and get better and work through those things. How much did that adversity help this team grow up and be able to continue to do what you were able to do on the floor?
I feel like it made us very strong. It never, with everything that happened and went on, we just stayed connected. We realized what our goal was. We realized what our plan was. And we really just stuck together. At the end of the day, we're the guys that go out and play basketball, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on in everyone's individual lives, and in our circumstance, as our team, we had some stuff going on, but we realized that we had a job to do. At the end of the day, we had to go out there, we had to perform and win games, and we were able to do that.
Donovan, can you just speak to how impactful Rob is on the floor and also what he means to the locker room of this team?
Yeah, I mean, Rob is one of my favorite players. I've played with, but growing up, I was a big Rob fan. Watching him on the Celtics, he was one of my favorite players growing up, and just what he brings to the locker room. Before Game 5, he texted me. He's like, "Hey man, forget about the last 4 games. You go out there and do what you do, and put everything in the past, and just do what you've done all year to get us here." And just having the leadership and a guy like that in my ear is, it gives you a lot of confidence. And he's just one of the best guys to be around. He's always happy. He's always giving good advice. He's always pushing us, and his impact on the floor is speaks for itself. What he did through a whole season, and really through the playoffs was something really special. And Rob is a great guy, and we just love to have him around.
You need to get your Chipotle from him, though.
I know. Maybe we'll go a couple Chipotle breaks this summer.
How did the playoffs sit with you in your performance? What did it do for you heading into the offseason?
It motivated me. Obviously didn't perform the way I wanted to. I didn't live up to how I played all year. But it definitely is a learning experience that, I could go back and watch and learn a lot from, just the physicality, the movement, the style of play. There's a lot to learn from it, but it definitely motivated me to go out and have a big time summer and come in better than ever next year.
Any other questions?
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Donovan.
All right, there's Donovan Clingan, the Trailblazers center. He's one of the guys on the team that I'm least concerned about. Even though he got manhandled in that series against San Antonio, there's no shame in that. They've got Victor freaking Wembanyama. So it's hard. It's a difficult matchup for Donovan. And the other problem is he got hammered on the court when he was on the floor in those non-Wembanyama moments. Luke Cornett. Yeah, I mentioned it yesterday. If I were him, I would have a poster blown up of getting clowned on by Cornett during the playoff series, and I would hang those posters up all around the weight room, just so you're driven and motivated to continue to put in the time during the off season. But I love what he said there in terms of the detail and what he wants to work on moving forward. He wants to, work on agility, his quickness, speed, getting a chance to cover in space a little bit more, defending the pick and roll, getting out and being able to contest at the three-point line. Like, he said all the right things. But here's the great thing about Donovan, and this comes from, where he played basketball at UConn. He obviously comes from good stock. He cares. And, it's one of the baselines I have for athletes that I, follow and cheer for. Is like, when I know that they care about their performance, about the team's, winning and losing, when I see that, lack of performance bothers the heck out of them, I love it so much. Because I know Donovan is going to do everything in his power to be the best basketball player he can. So he'll take this experience where he did not perform up to his standards against San Antonio, and it will drive him to do more, to be better, to work on the details. And that's what you want from your basketball players. Telephone number 503-248-0620. If you're expecting the Herd with Colin Cowherd, you're getting a special edition of the Rip City Drive with Chad doing right now, and that's because it's exit interview day with the Trailblazers. We're going to hear from all the players. So far, we've heard from Jrue Holiday, Shaedon Sharpe, and Donovan Clingan. We're going to hear from Joe Cronin. We'll hear from Thiago Splitter. So we're going to give you the full breakdown of your Trailblazers over the course of the morning as these guys speak at the practice facility. And basically, exit interview day is pretty simple. All the players, the coach, and the general manager talk to the media, but the players are also talking with, the coaches, Joe Cronin, the staff, to kind of get a prescription for what the team would like them to work on during the course of the offseason. And then they take that and they will implement that into their offseason plan. And most of these guys have individual coaches, trainers, people they work with throughout the course of the year to improve their game. And so that's how it works. And then after they're done meeting with, coach and general manager, they come out and talk with the media. And then after that, they're out. The guys are moving on to Cancun, or as Charles would say, Galveston, wherever they go for the off season. Some of them will stay here in Portland. Some will take off on vacation. Some will head to different parts of the country based on where they live, and they'll put in the time and the work and begin the process of getting ready for next year. And everyone's got a different, time frame for how they handle that, but that's kind of how it goes. So, but Donovan Clingan is one of the guys I worry least about because I know he's going to put in the time. He did not play well in that series against San Antonio. They went after him. They attacked him. But this goes back to what I've been talking about for years. Ever since I started watching the NBA as a youngster, the NBA playoff experience, it's not regular season basketball. It's not even close. The amount of preparation and game planning that teams go through, the scouting, the way that they attack your weaknesses. If you have a weakness, other teams in the postseason will expose it because of the scouting work that's done. And it's just a different level of intensity. The officiating is different. It's not even the same game that you play in the regular season. So what I have experienced in my lifetime is that teams that enter in, especially young teams, you don't enter the playoffs and go straight to a championship. There's a process of learning that you have to go through. And unfortunately, that learning involves losing. It involves getting embarrassed. It involves difficult moments. But once you go through that, you can utilize that to make you a better player going into the offseason, and you come back next year hopefully with an improved roster and guys having a better understanding of what it takes to win when you get to that level, and then you're able to have more success in the postseason. That's really what it comes down to. It's being able to, take those moments, learn from them, become better basketball players, and then when you reach the postseason again as a team, you have better success. And I've seen that with every team that I've grown up with, right? The Detroit Pistons, the bad boys, they had to learn how to win the postseason, and eventually they were able to get through the Boston Celtics and reach the NBA Finals and win a championship. The Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, they didn't just go straight to a NBA Finals and win a championship. They had to learn how to win, and they got beat multiple times and knocked out several different times by the Detroit Pistons.
Away from the season, kind of your thoughts and
that's just how it works.
The way you played this year, the way the team played, and just how.
All right, let's go back to the practice facility. Here's Robert Williams.
Thankful, I can stay healthy throughout the season. That's the biggest thing. Put in a lot of work this summer. I think I played. Obviously, I feel like I had a decent season because I stayed healthy. I feel like I could have contributed more in a lot of aspects, but it's kind of just trying to get my feet back under me. But, as always, I just feel like the team has been a team full of fighters, man. From everything we went through during the jump, the play-in games, still in the game in San Antonio. So just proud of everybody.
To your point about staying healthy, the plan that the team and you had together, whether not playing at back-to-backs and things like that, making an effort to put you in the best position to be healthy and play as many games as possible. How did that work out, and how do you, looking back on it, how do you feel like that went?
Yeah, even going into the off season last summer, the program they put together for me. Honestly, I think it went good. It went good. Like I said, made it through the season, and just hoping to build off of it. Maybe get a little more freedom, a little more leeway with stuff like that.
Rob, you're one of the few guys whose contract is up heading into next year. How are you approaching, your free agency, and do you want to be back here? Like, where do you stand with all that?
Yeah, for sure. I love Portland, man. If I could be back with my dogs, I'll for sure do that. But it's everything is a negotiation. Everything is a business. So.
What was the message from front office and coaches there at the end on that subject in particular?
With me, I haven't really had my meetings with the office yet. So.
Rob, what do you see from Donovan as far as his growth this season?
Oh man, he made a crazy leap, man. A crazy leap. Shout out to DC. I've been telling him the whole year. From him coming into training camp in way better shape, being able to withstand the games, playing longer stints, man, to the tray ball, he became a real volume shooter for us. So I just want him to keep growing, as he continues to play this game.
What more do you think he has to show and bring?
I think he can improve in all the areas that he's already great in, obviously, and all the areas he's not. I think just focus on the defense a little bit. Now that people know you can shoot, they know what you do. You got to add to your game the next year. That's the thing about the league. So.
The bar for you the last few seasons has just been get through the season healthy. Being able to clear that and now know you can kind of add a little bit more to what the bar is for you, how nice is that?
Oh, it's a great feeling, man. I've just been real thankful, like the past 3-4 days, like you said, just getting through this season. But now I can raise the bar. I can do a little more intense things and more intense workouts that I want to do during the summer. Maybe getting off the minute restriction thing, the playing time thing. So just looking forward to stuff like that.
Rob, you got here during the first year of this rebuild when they only won 21 games, and now you helped them get back to the playoffs. How important would it be for you to keep being a part of this and help them build for the next steps?
Yeah, like I said, man, I always want to stay with my dogs. I feel like I found another home in Portland, and I'd be happy to stay here, help to rebuild. Proud of the young guys. We've been together for a couple years, like you said. But like I said, everything is a business. It's a negotiation, and we got to get into the talks.
What do you view the next steps for this franchise to get to?
I feel like this year we kind of set a standard, or a line for ourselves that I feel like we can't go below. It's a problem if we go below that, so I feel like that's the mindset now, and just building up from there.
How would you describe the job that Thiago did, and obviously his future's as unsettled as yours is. Just what would you say about all that for him?
Yeah, I think he came in. Aggressive, and we needed that. You know what I'm saying? He let us know nobody was gonna feel sorry for us. He was a player, so he brings the fight, he brings the enthusiasm. I think he did such a great job coaching us and motivating us, and kind of letting us know he was in it with us. We all in this together, we all going through this together. But he told us that first day, none of the other teams are gonna feel sorry for you. Nobody gonna feel sorry for you. And I think that day, we was just ready to go to war with him.
What will be important for you as you weigh your next move? Like, what factors will determine whether you stay or go or whatever?
Yeah, it's a lot. Obviously the money is a part of it, but just everything, man. I love the training staff here. Looking in the teams as I get older, I'm not just going to the first team that calls. I'm kind of trying to check out everything, the settings, the coaches, all that. So.
You shot and made more threes this season than your entire career before. How did that come about to be a part of your game? And do you think you are at a place where you can add more elements to your game?
It was kind of just a confidence thing. A couple of my teammates and coaches were telling me to take some shots when I'm open, knowing when to shoot it. And I think, it's just something I added to my game. I do want to continue to work on that during the summer now that I did add it to my game, and hopefully I can, help with that.
DC says you owe him some Chipotle.
I owe him Chipotle?
His contention.
Oh, yeah. We played as like, I do owe him Chipotle.
Are you any other questions?
Yeah, Rob, you talked about your health and how you have found that spot where you feel like you're growing. Do you kind of have to fight it now, though, to not push it too far? Just kind of find that spot of scratching that itch and wanting to play as much as possible, but also keeping your body right at the same time, just knowing with just the injury history?
Yeah, I feel like that was the year of this, kind of like she said, it was kind of just let me see if I can get through it. That's kind of why I'm so thankful. But I withstood a lot of stuff, showed a lot of strength in my body from working out, weight room wise, to just playing on the court, and just looking to build off of it.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, there's a big man, Robert Williams III. Coming up after him, Chris Murray is going to get a chance to step up to the podium. We'll hear from him. You got a special edition of the Rip City Drive, exit interview day with your Portland Trailblazers, and we'll bring all the players to you. We've heard from Jrue Holiday, Donovan Clingan, Shaedon Sharpe, Robert Williams III. We'll hear from Joe Cronin and Thiago Splitter. If you want to jump on board and share your thoughts on the season or what you're looking forward to during the offseason with roster adjustments, who do you want as head coach? 503-248-0620. Chris Murray is up next. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
So Chris, how do you come away from the season? Just your thoughts and feelings about how you played, how the team played, and how things went for you guys in the postseason.
I'd say it was a positive season in a lot of ways. I feel like obviously how we started and then how we finished, there was a lot kind of in between that, and you're going to have your highs and lows throughout a season. I feel like we, like the highs were really good, and I feel like we minimized the lows. Where like years past, I feel like those have kind of just compounded. But I feel like there was improvement from all the guys. We had contributions from everybody. Our two-ways, our vets, young guys. I feel like everyone contributed to get to where we got to in the postseason. And the postseason, I feel like, we had our opportunities to, win a few more games and probably still be playing now. But I think we're going to learn from it, and there's a lot to learn going into the summer from that.
Chris, what can you say about the job that Thiago did coming in and the situation he came in with? And if it was up to you, you hope that he is back next year? Yeah,
I thought he did a really good job. Just from the first day he took over, he kind of just brought us all together and just tried to make it seem like everything was normal. And I think he did a really good job just kind of bringing everyone together and playing hard for him. And I think that was the biggest thing. We all wanted success for him. We want him to have his opportunity. I feel like he did a really good job with that. And I feel like you can probably ask any player. They love him. They love playing for him. And you kind of saw his speech the other day. It was pretty impactful, and that's just kind of all the emotions that went throughout the season.
Chris, how would you assess where your career is as you head into this offseason, and what's your mindset going into the summer?
Yeah, my career has kind of been up and down, as you probably know, in the rotation, out of the rotation. And for me, the summer is just kind of first just getting my body right, just playing through a lot, like the last part of the season with my back and stuff. But off-season is just going to be working on my mobility, strength, shooting, just being in the gym. That's kind of just what I'm going to be this summer, just a gym rat. Don't have many plans this summer besides that, so that's just going to be a big emphasis. And first, just taking some rest, and with myself, got to take a little time off after this long of a season. So
this year, with all the injuries, roles changed on a night-to-night, game-to-game, week-to-week basis, and your role changed, and with a lot of the guys. Because of that, a lot of players were asked to do different things that weren't necessarily in their skill set or what you guys were here specifically for. How much did those things help the individual development of you, your teammates, and this team, knowing that tonight I'm going to have to do something that isn't necessarily in my bag?
Yeah, that was kind of a lot of us. But for me personally, I played the 5 a few times this year, where I haven't done that since my sophomore year of college. So I had a game where I started at the 5, and that's just kind of what you have to do. You have to adjust on the fly, and got to do what it takes to win games. And I'd do anything to still be playing right now. I'm going to do whatever coach wants me to do on the court and just accept it. But a lot of guys play different positions. We didn't have like Jrue or Jerami or Scoot for a while, and then we needed other guys to kind of pick up that slack, and they did. So I thought that was pretty cool to see throughout the year, and just how guys are able to adjust and just be fine with it. I feel like you don't see that on a lot of teams.
Chris, you guys played a bunch of different styles this year, which you kind of came in the season playing one style, playing hyper-aggressive defensively, and then injuries piled up and you kind of had to back it off a little bit, and then you guys get to the playoffs. When you kind of take a look at where everything was and the styles that you played throughout the season and where the team as a whole, do you take something from that and go, okay, we actually are building onto something, even though there's been these kind of different versions of the team throughout the season?
Yeah, I think we our identity was kind of how we started at the beginning of the year. That kind of pick up full court, just high intensity, run the floor. And then obviously, like you said, those injuries kind of prevent us from doing that for a little while. But then, we didn't have our full roster really until the Suns game a few weeks ago. So I feel like there's a little bit of chemistry that needed to be fixed kind of on the fly in the playoffs. And I feel like some games are good, some games are bad. But ultimately, I feel like that's something to build off in the offseason. We weren't 100 until our most important game of the season. So we want to play fast. We want to be in your face. You want to be a physical team, and I feel like that's something that we can definitely build off going into the offseason.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Good summer, man.
All right, there's Chris Murray. Got a lot of respect for him. He's known as Mr. Perfect on the team because the coaching staff doesn't have to remind him of what he needs to be doing on a regular basis. You know, you tell him once, he's in the right place, and he makes plays. I'm a big fan of Chris Murray. I don't know what his future holds with this team, but I think he has proven that he can be, you know, a role player, a utility player off the bench. There's some areas that he needs to work on, I think, in transition, you know, being able to handle the rock and finish at the rim without turning it over, becoming a more consistent shooter, both from three and at the free throw line, working on his release, working on, you know, being quicker on the catch and shoot. But he's got a unique ability to be able to put the ball on the floor and attack the rim. And I think what I love, one of the areas I love most about his game is just he's an underrated rebounder and has an ability to really be able to, you know, get in there on the offensive glass. He's got some toughness, and defensively he's really sound. And we know that because he's had more success this season against Kawhi Leonard than anybody else in the NBA. So he does a lot of little things really well, but needs to continue to work on his game. And I like him too because he kind of fits the culture. Good attitude, good approach, good teammate. There's a lot of guys who are close to him on the team. He definitely adds to what they're doing. And again, he's not a regular rotation player. There's times where he's in the rotation, there's times where he's not. But he's a guy who will make the right play more often than not when he's on the court. I just want to see him become more consistent with that shooting stroke. That's all. You know, make shots, which again goes back to the biggest need that this team has moving forward, which is, you know, being a shot maker, finding more guys who can knock down threes, finding, you know, guys who can be more consistent in terms of being able to space the floor and stretch the defense. I mean, that's really what this team needs. They need to find guys who can knock it down. And I wish Chris Murray, like he would be, if he was a more consistent shooter, a dead eye from downtown, and could be a 40%, you know, shooter from three, he'd be perfect. Because he can rebound, he can defend, he does a lot of little things well, good teammate, you know, adds to the culture of the team, but needs to become a more consistent three-point shooter when he gets those opportunities on the floor. And for a guy that shoots it like he does, he should be a better free throw shooter. The team as a whole should be a better free throw shooting team. The missed free throws, especially from Deni Avdija, it's like, come on, Deni, you're killing me, man. You're too good of a player to be a 79 to an 80% free throw shooter. I'm sorry. That's just not going to work. But I do like Chris Murray. A good attitude, good approach, and does a lot of the little things well on the court. And he's unselfish. You know, if he's in the rotation, great. If not, he'll support his teammates in other ways. But, you know, long term, you know, who knows what the future holds for Chris Murray, especially if the Trailblazers decide to go big game hunting and want, you know, to bring in some star power, which is definitely a possibility based on the assets that they have to work with. Telephone number is 503-248-0620. You can jump on board if you've got any questions. I'd be happy to answer those. Sean Hyken says that we're going to get Thiago Splitter around 11:20. But if you have any questions on the team, on the season, on any of the players, I'll be happy to answer those. Also, I would love your thoughts on the coaching situation. Do you want Tom Dundon to retain and sign up Thiago Splitter long-term as the head coach? What about the roster? Do you want them to go big game hunting? Do you want them to have another season of, you know, development and evaluation for Scoot and Shaedon? Like, what are you looking for? Because I think there are three essential untouchables of the young core. It's Toumani, Donovan, and Deni. And then outside of that, if they go big game hunting, they've got options. All right, we'll keep things rolling. It's a special edition of the Rip City Drive. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And we're going to hear from everybody, including Joe Cronin and Thiago Splitter. They're over at the practice facility having their final meetings before guys scatter for the offseason. I appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, special edition of the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on Trailblazer exit interview day. I think we're going to hear from Thiago Splitter coming up in a few minutes. And what does his future hold? Let's go out to Aaron in Staten who wants to chime in. Aaron, I appreciate the call. What's on your mind?
Hey, I was just listening to you, and I think one of the most important things that we need to do in the offseason is really iron out the coach first. I don't think we can dilly-dally on that, and mainly because of all the positive things that we attribute to the job Thiago did coming in on short notice. We're not the only organization that probably missed that. So he could, honestly, with the amount of vacancies that pop up, he could have some options, right? And so I think it's important that he return. I think you're a fan of him too, listening to you. The only concern I have is him building out his staff. Do you think that he would keep the people that he somewhat inherited, or do you think he's got enough tenure or status in the league to really build out a staff? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good question, Aaron. I appreciate the phone call. If Thiago Splitter is made the full-time head coach, he will have autonomy to be able to flesh out his staff because that's what you do when you hire a head coach. You allow him to pick and choose the guys that he wants to work with. Now, the good thing about Thiago in terms of being able to build a staff, he's got enough relationships during his time in the NBA and as a coach overseas to where I'm sure he's got some guys identified that he would like to work with. And I would imagine there'll be some holdovers, with the staff that he likes here in Portland, but he'd be able to go out there and pick and choose some of his guys. That's how it works. If you're going to make someone the head coach, they get autonomy to be able to work with, the guys they want to work with. Now, there are times where after you hire a guy, if you go through, a couple of seasons of struggle or things aren't going the direction that leadership wants, sometimes they'll force you to take on assistants that they think might be able to help out the staff or the head coach. But Thiago Splitter's got enough connections, enough relationships in the business to be able to find the guys that he wants to work with. There's no question in my mind. One of the things I was told when he took over as acting head coach is that there are a lot of people around the league who believe in him. They think he's got a chance to be a real coaching star. He is well respected in NBA circles. Like Thiago Splitter, it doesn't matter whether it's here in Portland or somewhere else. He is going to be a head coach in the NBA. That much I can tell you. He is going to be a head coach. Now, is it the guy that Tom Dundon wants to run his team? We don't know yet. We'll find out. But I definitely think that Thiago Splitter is one of the leaders in the clubhouse to be able to keep the job and continue to coach. And I've seen reports out there over the last 24 to 48 hours suggesting that the Trailblazers have already made the decision and they're not going to bring back Thiago Splitter. I don't believe those reports at all. I think Thiago Splitter's got a great chance to come back and be the coach. But if Tom Dundon goes in a different direction, then Thiago Splitter will be a coach somewhere else in this league. He is going to be a coaching star in the NBA. There's no doubt in my mind. And he's going to get an opportunity to do it in Portland or somewhere else. I believe in Thiago Splitter. But I've also said, and I believe this as well, that if you are going to buy a new team and Tom Dundon comes in as owner, what I want any owner to do of the teams that I care about, don't just hire a guy because everyone thinks he should have the job. Be diligent in your process and talk to as many people as you can, interview as many qualified candidates as you possibly can, and then in the end, who's the best guy for the job? Who do you truly believe is the best fit, the right man for the job moving forward? If that's Thiago Splitter, then hire him. If you find someone better than Splitter, then you hire him. Just find the best possible coach for the team. Don't hire a guy just because everyone likes him or the fans want him. Find the guy that you think is best for the position. And if you do that, then that's great. And the other good thing is that if you go through an extensive search and you come back and say, you know what, Thiago Splitter is the right guy for the job, then you only strengthen his situation because you went and talked to all these different candidates. And you can tell everyone, hey, we talked to multiple candidates. There's no doubt in my mind that Thiago Splitter is the right guy for the job. Now, I could also make the argument that what else do you need to see from Thiago Splitter to find out whether or not he's the guy? I could make the argument that based on what he dealt with this year how the team responded, the success that they had in the face of all the adversity. For a guy that's never had a head coaching job in the NBA and he navigated it as well as he did, I think that's a pretty darn good head coach. I mean, you're brought in as an assistant. You're kicking off your first year with the Trailblazers, and after game number 1, the FBI arrests the head coach, and then you're thrown in as the acting head coach. That's not exactly a smooth transition. That's not something you hope for. That's chaos. And then, to throw a little salt into that wound, you're going to be top 5 in games lost due to injury. And somehow he was able to navigate that. He obviously did a good job with Donovan Clingan, who improved in every aspect of his game. Robert Williams was incredibly productive. What about the job Thiago and his staff did working with Caleb Love and Sidi Sissoko to get them up to speed so that they could play significant minutes with the injuries and be able to continue to win games? How about the transition for Deni Avdija becoming the team point guard and main facilitator with the injuries, and having him have his best season as a pro and an all-star season? You can just point to all these little things. But most importantly, it goes back to the same thing I said at the top of the show. The one thing that Thiago has that he has proven throughout this year, and I think it's the most important skill / trait, or whatever you want to call it for an NBA coach, is can they reach their players and get them to do what they need them to do? You know, Thiago's got a game plan, and he needs his guys to be able to compete and do things a certain way. Can Thiago Splitter get his players to do what he needs them to do? It's the most important question for any coach in the NBA. You can have all the X's and O's, you can be super smart, but if the guys don't care about you, or you're not reaching them, they don't want to play hard for you, you can't get your players to play hard, then you're screwed. So there you have it. I think Thiago Splitter is deserving, but at the same time, make sure you do your due diligence, and I'm sure Tom Dundon will. Find the best coach. Find who you believe is the best coach for your franchise moving forward to get them into a position to compete for a championship. Because in the end, that's what I care most about. Are the Blazers competing for a championship? If the answer to that question is no, what are they doing? What are they actively doing to put themselves in a position to compete for a championship? It's pretty simple, but I would be very diligent in my process to try and find the right guy, the right coach for the job. Sean in Damascus has chimed in. Keep Splitter. He's super cool, and I like him. He did a good job under very trying circumstances. Who in the world would you even go after? The players love him. Enough said. Well, who would you go after? There are plenty of coaches, some big names, some not, that you want to talk to. The other reason why you want to talk to as many coaches as possible is so you can collect information and data on your team. These coaches will share thoughts on your roster, on your personnel, on your coaching staff, the job that Thiago did. So if you're a new owner trying to get used to a brand new game, the NBA, which is not the NHL, then you can, collect that data and be able to utilize that to your advantage moving forward. There's a lot of good things that come from doing an exhaustive search. But for Thiago Splitter, the good thing is you got a full season of data to showcase what he can do. And the great thing about Thiago, just like we talk about the internal development with the young players on the roster, Thiago Splitter is only into his first year as an acting head coach. So I would suggest that with more time and experience that Thiago Splitter is going to be more effective.
All the moments that we went through.
This is Thiago Splitter right now
the balance
at the practice facility.
I think one of the main aspects of the game that I wanted was compete every night. And for the most part, we compete every game and we had a chance to win those games. Players got better. I got better throughout the season. The staff got better. As an organization, we figured out things and we got better. And that's what you want. You want to see improvement. You want to see players, making better decisions. You want the staff making better decisions, myself making better decisions. And I think we did that throughout the season. And I see that as a positive.
Thiago, what has the team and the leadership told you about your status going forward and when there might be some sort of resolution on that?
Well, we decided to, we're going to talk. I don't know when. Of course, I told you guys I want to stay. But we got to talk to some things and figure it out, honestly.
Have they given you any indication about where things stand from their perspective, or is that just something you'll talk about at the meeting?
There's a lot of talking right now, and I think some of them are exaggerations, clickbaits and stuff like that. I have a good relationship with Tom, with Joe. We just need some time now, and I understand. It's a new owner. He's trying to figure out us as well, learn what we do and what we do wrong and good. And I guess he needs some time as part of it. We just finished the season. But, my relationship with Joe and Tom is great right now, and we just gotta, wait a little bit here and make a decision.
What are you most proud of about this year?
I think I used this word a lot of times this year, and it's resilient. This group was a resilient group. When you go through injuries, when you go through, it's kind of, I'm on repeat, but it's the F-through. What happened to Chauncey, the injuries, different lineups every night, different way we played. We were aggressive, not aggressive, two ways, having minutes. So I think when you go through all of that and you look back, and it's like, it's not easy, and it's not easy for the players as well and for the staff. So we kind of have to adapt throughout the season, and I think that's the word for this group.
Speaking of adapting with everything that happened to Chauncey and you being thrown into this role, what did you learn about yourself as a coach, and how did you grow?
What did I learn about myself? I don't know. I just kept, fighting every day, day by day. I learned a lot from others. How can I coach this team? How can I coach certain players? How can I lead my staff? How to make them better? How to improve the day-to-day? When to be a little firmer on the coaches meeting, when to be a little firmer on the film sessions, practice, when to give them a little bit more like a relaxed time, and all of those little things that you learn throughout the year made me better.
Thiago, if you could point to one thing that you got better at as a coach from the beginning of the season to now, what would that be?
How to push the right buttons with the players, how to coach them on the court during games, what we need in certain moments. I learned what the players need, how to get guys ready. Also learn tendencies that they have throughout the game. I think it's one thing is just to watch them on TV. Another one is, get the best out of them on a timeout, on a pregame speech, on how you prepare a practice, stuff like that. So I think I got way better. I'm still learning. I'm still a young coach. I'm not saying I'm Phil Jackson. I'm not that, but I got better for sure than I was last summer.
What can you say about Deni Avdija's growth this year all the way to becoming an all-star? And how much do you think you and your coaching style has to do with that?
Well, I think Deni, of course, stepped up his game and got better on readings throughout the game, on being efficient with a higher volume, being efficient when they're scouting for you, being efficient when you're tired and you're playing 38 minutes a night. And why he got better, One is himself, working and believing on himself. I think our coaches did a tremendous job developing him with film, with workouts throughout the summer, with us also understanding how can he be effective and putting plays or sometimes just being random and giving him the ball in open transition, in semi-transitions, and this is when he really flourished.
If we could go back to the second day of the season and tell you what's gone now, what would you do differently? What would you change about the way you guided the team in the franchise?
Man, you're gonna get me to the details of it, but I think honestly, when we start the season, when you see the roster and what kind of players we had, and we didn't have like a pick and roll dominant guy. We didn't have like clear, just shooter type of thing. We have a lot of guys that could do different things, but we're not specialists. So when you have a roster like that, you got to try to involve everybody. You try to. So we had this system where we call the blender, right? Like where we try to stay connected and try to create a first advantage, and then after that it's kind of like a avalanche where everybody has something to do in the offense and everybody's involved. A little less set plays, let's say. And we even joke, we need a little bit more set plays and a little bit more like old school, slow, and because in the playoffs that's what's gonna be. And one of the coaches say, "Well, we first gotta get there." Right? And when we got to the playoffs, I felt like we missed that a little bit more of set plays, to be honest. This is being very critical of myself and being open to you guys. And I told the guys that. I mean, listen, I wish we had a little bit more of that, a little bit more of structure, and we try at the end, but it's not as easy. And also the roles got a little bit better defined by the end of the season, and you could see Deni could play pick and roll. He became a way better pick and roll player than last year, and other guys as well. So I think we grow as a team, I grow as a coach, and I will do certain things differently for sure. I'll be a little bit more organized, a little bit less random, if I'm honest with you and being very open. So I'm not scared to say that. I don't want to hide anything. It's just part of the learning process.
You mentioned that.
Your last question.
You mentioned that you learned that Deni became a better pick and roll player because of the situation he had to be in based on health. What else did you learn about this team, skill set specific to players, things like that, that you might not have known if those injuries didn't present those opportunities?
Well, there's a lot of things, how to get Jerami involved, how to, when you have the two ways playing heavy minutes, how to create offense for them. DC becoming, even though he didn't shoot well in the playoffs, he was a threat, three-point threat throughout the season, and that helped us a lot. You gotta, now you gotta replicate that in the playoffs, which is a different game, a more physical game, and he knows that, and he's gonna work the whole summer and becomes an even better shooter. DC, his ceiling is way higher than he is right now. He gotta get better, and he understands that. And we have an open talk about that. So, like I said, we're not hiding anything. We're taking on the chest, and we're learning and getting better as a group here.
Yeah, I got one more. The box. Who won and
The box we just reviewed, and it was a really nice glass basketball. I guess you guys are gonna see in the social media soon, but the man of the box is Toumani. Could not be another guy. He got the most box throughout the year. A guy that sets the tone for us, and we had a lot of good defenders, but he's elite, and I'm not a big award guy and type of thing, but I hope the NBA award him with, being in one of those teams.
He always seems to be overlooked. Is there a way to describe what he means to this team?
I mean, if guys don't, I know you guys know this, but if the rest of the league don't see it, I mean, you guys got to pay attention on what he does and how he plays, the miles that he runs, and the amount of attentions that he puts in the game, and he's so proud of being, the best defender on the court every time.
Thanks, Thiago.
There's Thiago Splitter, the head coach of your Portland Trailblazers, the acting head coach. I think the most interesting thing that he said there is that a lot of the reports out there right now about the future of the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers is, quote, clickbait. And he said more than once that he's got a good relationship with Tom Dundon. And he also said that he thinks Dundon is trying to get a handle on all the information, to understand the game, to understand what the coaches do well, what they don't do well, which is what I thought, from the get-go, that Tom Dundon is, on a process to, discover as much information as he possibly can. And I've been told from people who have been in meetings with him so far as he's taken over is to, make sure that he asks a lot of questions. All right, let's head back to the practice facility, and Matisse Thybulle stepping up to the podium.
You just walk around with the ball all day, every day?
No.
Matisse, how do you kind of come away from this season, both for yourself and for the team?
Personally, was just happy to get healthy and be able to stay healthy, and then just getting a chance to get back in the rotation and make an impact. And then as a team, I feel like from the outside looking in, we really overachieved. But I think for everyone who's been around, like I'm sure you guys feel it and we all feel it in the locker room, we have more to give. And there's a lot more that we can get out of this group. And so, I mean, like we'll take, I guess, a pat on the back of beating the odds, like Vegas, whatever it was that they had for us. But I think for us, we all see how much potential we have is still yet untapped, and look forward to like getting key pieces, getting Dame back, and just seeing what can happen when we run it back.
Matisse, you're a free agent this summer. Is your hope that you'll be back here, and what are your expectations for how that's going to go?
I don't have expectations. I don't really know how the whole proper free agency thing goes. I was a restricted free agent before, but this is very different. Expectations, don't have any, don't know what to expect, but I would love to be a part of this team again. Like I said, great group with a lot of potential, good people. Like I think I talk about this with like my friends and even like the older players on the team who've been traded. Like I don't know if everyone on this team fully realizes how good of a group we really have, because you can get a couple bad eggs that spoil it for everyone, but we don't have anything close to that. And just the level of care and just the quality of character we have in our locker room is something that's really nice to be a part of. So me personally would love to be here and continue growing with this team, but like I said, no expectations.
So with that, the last couple of years you battled through some injuries for good chunks of the season and finished strong, and you came in and immediately made an impact and were ready to go. Different injuries, handled different ways, things happen in basketball and in sports, but for you to be where you want to be physically next year, what's your approach going forward?
Well, I think I'm there now. The thing that we had to deal with this year was, like, I've been learning how interconnected the body is, and so the injuries that I was dealing with this year were really left over from the previous season. And so now having the big picture and having it all been addressed, like I was able to come back and didn't miss anything. And so that was the biggest thing. I don't think we had, I'll speak for myself, I didn't have a proper understanding of how everything was interplaying with each other. And so now that that's been sorted, there's no plan to fix anything. Like we found it and we're just on the right path now.
Tace, you talked about how when you got here with Chauncey, how he gave you the freedom to play on both sides of the ball. Do you feel like you have that same kind of freedom with Thiago, even though you didn't necessarily get the amount of burn that you would normally get, which because of the injuries. Do you feel like you're still being kind of empowered in that role and to be that disruptor defensively, to take more actions in the offense?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think with Chauncey, it was more, let's just say like on a personal level, he was encouraging me to do these things. And then with Thiago in this season, it was more the structure of the offense encouraged everyone to get involved. And then I think I was able to make some strides through the summer, and honestly just through being injured with my shot, and through that I felt definitely from the coaches encouragement to just take more catch and shoot opportunities, and like I said, they were available just given the nature of how our offense kind of runs.
What do you think this team needs to take the next step?
I think this year. I think what we just went through. I think so much can be gained from lived experience, and having like I said, we beat Vegas's numbers, but like for us, I think having a disappointing playoff experience, just it gives you so much raw material to work with as far as like how to improve and what to get better and what worked, and yeah, just continuing to build. I think the narrative for the last, since I've been here, has just been like we have a young team, and I don't think people fully realize how hard it is to be a young team in this league because the learning curve is so steep. But with every season, like we're seeing players make huge jumps in numbers, but a lot of that can be attributed to player development, but also it's just knowing the game, understanding how to play in the NBA, how the NBA works, and just developing your basketball IQ.
I forget what media interview place I asked you this. I don't remember if it was X interviews last year or the media day, but you know, you've had quite a few years in terms of injuries, stuff with Team Australia for the Olympics. I'm just curious if your relationship with, if there's any more evolution of your relationship with the game of basketball through the last, 7 months that you had to deal with the injury stuff that you had to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I can fully quantify it, but when, like you mentioned Australia, you mentioned the injuries. When you have this thing taken away from you, it definitely shifts your perspective and just changes the way you relate to it. Because I think for a lot of us, we feel like we have a lot of control in how we got here. We worked hard, we got ourselves here, and we whatever. But then having gone through what I've been through the last, 2 years, 3 years, I've just seen how much is not in my control and how much can be taken away from you whether you want it to be or not. And so I definitely have a deeper appreciation and a greater gratitude for the opportunities just to be a part of it, to be an NBA player, to be able to play basketball even. And I think that's something my younger self that was lost on me. And now it's definitely something I cherish.
How would you evaluate the job that Thiago did, particularly under the circumstances? He inherited it.
I mean, he on the court, there's a term where if it's late in the shot clock and someone throws you the ball because they don't have a good look and you have to shoot it with no time left, they call it a grenade. And in a sense, it's kind of what Thiago was thrown. And he's, and I've said it a bunch, but we beat the projections of what we were supposed to be capable of with a good team and with a normal situation. And I mean, by good I meant healthy, with a healthy team with a normal situation. And so Thiago took on a job that wasn't originally planned and took on a roster that didn't get stable until like the last couple games of the season. I mean, we just had our meeting and I'm like, it's in some cases a bit of a miracle, but in our world, no one, even if you overachieve, it can still be disappointing for people. And so I think as far as I'm concerned, like Thiago did an amazing job. Like he knocked it out the park. But as far as everyone else is concerned, like we didn't perform well in the playoffs and we had ups and downs. But I think if you look at the big picture, I don't know how many people could replicate what he was able to do this year with what he had to work with.
Matisse, with the way you guys, the style of play you guys employed, particularly early on in the season on the defensive end, before kind of everyone got injured, do you think that's something that you guys gave back to and would be sustainable for an entire season?
Yeah, I think with a healthy roster, yeah. And I'm sure someone could make the argument at some point that, like, well, what if guys got injured because of it? And I don't think so. I think that, like, if you just, like, we just had freak things happen, and it was unfortunate. But the style of play that we started the season with is definitely something I think they'll want to get back to. And it was talked a lot. It was talked about a lot too, just as far as the impact it had on other teams. And given the amount of care that we all share as a team on the defensive end, I do think that we're capable of being able to do something like that and sustaining it for a whole season.
To your point about culture, right? Things happened and changed. Now you have somebody who was in the same level as the other coaching staff is now leading them, and everybody bought in. And players had roles that were changing, that because of injuries, they were asked to do things that they weren't supposed to be asked to do. How much of that culture and character led to the results you guys had on the floor? And can you describe just how unique that is in this league?
I mean, yeah. I don't know if I've seen anything like it before, but I think everyone here is competent. They're good at their job, right? Like, that's how you get here, and so you get your foot in the door. But I think there's something to be said about the person, the individuals, the quality of character in this building, and people being able to put their pride aside or whatever it is, or ego, their agendas, whatnot. Because this thing doesn't work if you don't buy in on every level, from a coach to an athletic trainer to a player. Like, none of it went according to plan, and none of it was expected, but still somehow we were able to pull it out. And I genuinely think that has everything to do with the quality of people that we have in this building, as opposed to the expertise, if you will. Because I think everyone was willing to just, throw themselves into the fire and just let it be about the main thing, which is trying to win games and do what's best for the team.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, there is Matisse Thybulle, one of the smartest guys in the league. I think most of us would agree on that, but I really enjoy his thoughts. Very thoughtful, obviously very impressed with, the job that the entire team did this year based on the adversity they had to go through. And I love what he said. He said there's a term that they use in the NBA when a player gets the ball late in the shot clock and it's time to get a shot up. They call it a grenade. Like, you got to get rid of that bad boy. He said that's pretty much what Thiago was dealt when he was handed the job after Chauncey Billups got arrested by the FBI. Grenade! And he had to step in and learn on the fly, which is pretty impressive. And then he was asked, what this team needs to do to be able to take the next step. And I like what he said there. He's like, hey, exactly what we just went through. What we just went through as a team this season, what we just experienced, like that. That's it. So, good thoughts from Matisse Thybulle. It is a special edition of the Rip City Drive as we continue to make the necessary steps to move into the offseason. We're going to hear from all the players. Joe Cronin, we heard from Thiago Splitter. Joe Cronin will come up as well. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number if you want to jump in and share your thoughts. I hope you're enjoying your Thursday. We'll have more from the practice facility when we come back here on the Rip City Drive.
was resilient.
All right, we head back to the practice facility. Jerami Grant is at the podium for your Trailblazers.
And how about you individually?
Same. I think, it's ups and downs throughout the season, as it always is, but I think overall it's positive. So.
Jerami, going into the last few off seasons, there's been all these kind of questions and uncertainty about your future and whether you're going to be here. Do you see yourself being here again next year, beyond this year?
I mean, it's not really up to me, but hope so.
Jerami, for your game, and when Thiago came in, was going to change the offense up a little bit. You're taking less mid-range shots, more threes, more shots at the rim. Your percentages go up, things stabilize there. How much did some of those changes in the design of the offense help your game kind of stabilize and be where you want it to be?
I think everything's always an adjustment. Always got to figure out, what the coaches want from me, what the organization wants from me. Then I got to figure out how to mix my game into, what they want. And I think, they helped me out a lot this year, just to be able to figure it out and stay with me, through the ups and downs. So,
Jerami, how do you feel like Thiago did once he took hold of the team, and kind of not just that, but beyond that, how do you feel like you fit into what he wants to do and how he wants to kind of run things?
Yeah, I mean, I think he did a good job. Like I said, it was a lot going on this season. We had to deal with a lot of adversity and things like that. So, for him to come in and, take the reins and be able to adjust and help us to, get 40-plus wins is big, especially, after the seasons that we had in the past. So I think he's done a good job of just trying to mesh everybody together. And, and I'm just, a piece of that. So.
What do you think this team's missing that it needs to take the next step for next year?
To be honest, I don't like if you look at our roster and things that we have. I don't think we're missing much of anything. To be honest, I think you can say experience in the postseason experience and things like that. But we also got players that's been there, won championships and things like that. So. I can't really point to something that we're missing completely. I think we can become better shooters, but I also think we have people who could shoot the ball on the team as well. So.
Any other questions? All right. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Jerami.
All right, there's Jerami Grant of your Trailblazers. And, I give him a lot of credit because he did have to adjust and accept a different role coming into the season this year. You could hear the frustration in his voice at the media day before the season began. But I still thought he was a productive, big-time player in the NBA, a guy who could definitely start, but the plan was to bring him off the bench. He embraced the role. He obviously got to start a ton because of injuries. Everyone's role was, switched up throughout the course of the year because of the injuries, but he embraced it, and he did. He changed his shot chart. He shot threes or he attacked the rim, and he got away from the mid-range game. He had his best season as a Trailblazer, provided good leadership in the way that he accepted his role, and I was really proud of the way Grant performed this year. He embraced his role, he accepted it, and he moved forward, and he did everything the team asked him to do, and he played his tail off. So nothing but mad respect for Jerami Grant and the way he dealt with everything this year. And he knew coming into last year that the team had tried to move him throughout the course of the offseason. I mean, if you look at the Blazers, if they're going to, consolidate and go big game hunting, Grant would be one of the prime candidates to be moved based on his age, based on his contract. They've got a lot of youth on the roster, young core. Grant would be one of the primary pieces to go. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be dealt, but he knows that. But I just really respect the professionalism that he showed in the way he embraced the role that was handed to him. And then stepped up and did whatever else was necessary throughout the course of the year, which is pretty impressive. Telephone number 503-248-0620. You're getting a special edition of the Rip City Drive today with exit interviews. We're going to hear from all the players. We already heard from Coach Thiago Splitter. Probably the most interesting thing that was said all day when he was asked about his future, he said twice that he had a good relationship with both Joe Cronin and Tom Dundon, and that a lot of the reporting about the head coaching position with the Blazers right now is, quote, clickbait. And he did say that Dundon is going through the process of trying to learn the NBA game and be able to assess what the coaches do well, what they don't do well, to help in his decision-making process. And I also mentioned that myself where, the team, I've talked to people within the organization who have spent time talking to Dundon. He's a guy that asks a lot of questions. Why do we do this? Why does that happen? Why do we spend money on this? He's just trying to figure everything out and get as much information as possible so he can make good decisions. And so, which is, I think, what you want from a guy who's taken over the team. But I do not believe the report at all that the Blazers are going to move on from Thiago Splitter. I don't think that decision's been made yet. I think that reporting is largely inaccurate. And I think Thiago Splitter is the leader in the clubhouse to keep the job. Based on the work that he did this year, just listen to his players. Like Matisse said, he was handed a grenade. Your head coach is arrested by the FBI after the first game of the year, and Thiago Splitter is just thrown into the fire. And he didn't sink. I mean, he learned. He got better as the season went along. And he's a young coach, which means he's only going to get better with more time on the job. And, ultimately, what you want to see from your guys is how do they respond to adversity? How do they respond in difficult moments? Like everything that you would need to evaluate a coach, I think Thiago Splitter went through this year. And he passed the test with flying colors. Toumani Camara is going to be the next Trailblazer at the podium. Toumani Camara was the winner of the box. His name got put in the box more than any other player because of his defensive prowess. Not a surprise. He's also an NBA Ironman, one of 5 players in the league to start and play in every single game. There's not much I don't love about Toumani, and I consider him one of the guys on the roster who is virtually untouchable because every team could use a player and desires a player like Toumani. Great defender, elite on that end of the floor, and just needs to continue to work on his game and become more consistent in terms of being a threat offensively. But he had some big nights throughout the year from downtown, and as he continues to get more consistent from three, he's just going to be a lethal player. But the 3 guys I look at, Donovan, Deni, and Toumani, critical to the success of this team. Critical because they all play big minutes, and critical because they're all key to the Trailblazers' defensive attack. Clingan for the rim protection, Deni with his physicality and versatility, and Toumani with the, as Coach said, he goes to him and says, hey, I need you to set the tone defensively. And he does. Toumani Camara is everything you want in a basketball player. Did he have a great series against San Antonio? No. But he did have some big moments down the stretch. He hit some big shots against Phoenix in the play-in game. He hit a couple of big threes in that game, too, which allowed the Blazers to get the win coming back home with the series tied at 1. I'm a big fan of Toumani Camara. In fact, let's go to the podium right now. Toumani Camara.
Questions for Toumani?
Toumani, that's your name. How do you kind of come away from this season, both individually and as a team, and just your thoughts on how you guys competed, particularly in the playoffs this season?
I think it was a very positive season in a lot of ways. Looking at the big picture, how we was able to play the season, progress throughout the season, stick together on and off the court, how everybody was able to grow and learn from one another and really enjoy this year. I feel like everybody really enjoyed this year. Just being able to play the postseason and compete and having a team where everybody's on the same wavelength and really appreciate one another. I think we show a lot of progress, a lot of resilience, a lot of togetherness, and a lot of situations that were tough for everybody. So, yeah, I'm very proud and happy of how we was able to fight and stay who we are throughout all the ups and downs.
And how about you individually? I know you had mentioned kind of at the beginning of the playoffs, you felt like the start of the season maybe wasn't what you wanted it to be, but how do you kind of come away from your personal performance?
Yeah, I don't think it was the best year for me. Even though I feel like I progressed, I made a lot of things work my way, I feel, throughout the season. Even though there was a lot of ups and downs, I feel like I was able to get more mature, understand my situation even better. Still
still improving in a lot of different areas that I wanted to improve on. Set a lot of goals for myself by playing 82 games and setting the offensive foul record. And played the off-season, playing the playoffs. I think that was one of the biggest goals for me this year. It's help the team win and help the team get to the playoffs, and we was able to do that. Not the result that we wanted, but I feel like individually, I was able to. Biggest thing, grow mentally, be more mature, and still able to accomplish certain goals that I had set for myself.
What will your off-season look like? What's your focus this summer?
So a lot of training, a lot of try to get better, get my body used to play longer throughout the year until like June, and get some time for myself, relax a little bit, resource myself with my family and friends and loved ones, learn new things, challenge myself for off-the-court stuff like reading more books, getting smarter, learn new things, new hobbies or stuff like that. Giving back to the kids, giving back to my community back home. One of the biggest things that I really cherish and want to put a lot of effort in. Me and my team try to improve the back home basketball atmosphere and level of attention. And keep being a better human.
Toumani, what can you say about the job that Thiago did this year, given the circumstances that he was handed and the way the season went?
I think he did a great job. I mean, he got us where we wanted to be, and then I feel like everybody could have done better. You know, everybody can have improvements in their own ways, but I feel like through the situation that he was put in and everything that he has to go through for his first year as an NBA coach, I think he was very successful and was able to find a lot of positive things to think about for him this summer.
You said you're going to go back home and improve basketball atmosphere. Does that include playing for the national team? And also, did you get a chance throughout the year to talk to other international players on the team who played for their national teams? Deni, Wap when he was here, and learn anything from them?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I want to do eventually in my career. Represent my country. I feel like I say, I want to change the culture back home and towards basketball and have a bigger impact on that end. So play for the national team is definitely something that will help. I think there's time and place for everything. I'm not sure again how it's going to happen for me exactly this summer, but there's a lot of positive that's happening, a lot of good change happening, and like you said, talking to some of my teammates that do play for their national teams, I know how much pride we take as foreigners to play and represent our country for the game of basketball. So being able to have their experience and their point of view on the national team is very important, and it helps me making a decision on how I want to approach things for sure.
What would it mean to you to be recognized again on the all-defensive team for a second year, and do you think you deserve it?
Yeah, it would mean a lot. It would mean a lot. Just that I was able to maintain or improve my status from last year defensively. Do I feel like I deserve it? I feel like it was not my best defensive from the start this year, but I feel like I was able to find a rhythm. There's a lot of adjustments I had to take, a lot of teams that knew that I was a good defender now, so they were making adjustments, try to take me out of plays, a lot of screen that I had to go through. So it was really trying to find another way to have an impact defensively. You know, it was try to adjust for me defensively this year, and I feel like I was able to do that throughout the end of the season, but I believe I'm better of a defender than I've ever been in my life as of today. So internally, yeah, I believe I'm first team all year. But it was a lot of things that I had to adjust and try to maneuver throughout the year that teams was doing, different scheme that they were putting me through to kind of like X me out the situation defensively. So yeah, I feel like I deserve first team, but it's not really up to me. So we'll see.
You mentioned the offensive foul record. It's risky, right? Because you put yourself in a position where you can pick up fouls, and there were a couple of games where that happened. Obviously, you're paying attention to other players' tendencies and things on other teams, but so much of that is up here. How much of that has been you understanding the way that officials officiate things to know what's going to work and what's not in those spots?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was initially being a defender and the offensive game getting better and better, and defense is not really put in a state where you can be as physical as you want. You can create contact most of the time and stuff like that. So how can I be a smarter defender? How can I really have an impact on that end? And when I was seeing an offensive player finding ways to create fouls and get to the free throw line more often, just try to find a way to do that defensively also. Try to manipulate the game and, like you say, understand how the referee called the game, and be smarter on that side. I feel like that was the biggest thing for me. That was the biggest challenge, try to figure out how can I improve. Like I said, again, being put away in the corners, not really having as many on-ball situations, how can I have an impact on the game and still get stops and fighting through screens and stuff like that and be physical and using that to my advantage. I think that was the biggest thing that I could improve in my game this year, and get that record means a lot to me for sure.
To your point about being in the corners and things like that, it seemed like in the last couple of years, your shot selection was more cutting to the basket, being around the rim, getting second points and things like that. But because of the injuries and the flow of the offense, you're taking more threes, you're out there more as a perimeter player. That adjustment, and then when guys are coming back healthy, needing to do both of those things, how do you adjust to that now going forward?
Yeah, I think it was really tough for me this year, always having to figure out my role and try to understand where I can have an impact offensively. It's my first year really shooting the ball at a pretty good level at a high rate. So taking only threes was the first time in my life where there was games where I only shot threes. So it was a big adjustment. And yeah, try to find ways to keep being involved into the game. I feel like crashing offensive boards, next play action, try to facilitate and stuff like that. I think that's also areas that I was able to excel in. But yeah, it's always about adjustment. That you have injuries. I was fortunate enough to play 82 games this year, so be able to adjust with different lineups and stuff like that. How can when I play with Shea play this way? How can I play with Scoop play a certain way? And still able to have my impact on both sides. I think it's been the biggest challenge for me. But I think it's all about figuring out and confidence. I put a lot of work in and stuff like that. So no matter if my shot's going in or not, just going out there playing with a lot of confidence, I think that's the biggest thing for me as of today.
What did you learn about yourself and the team in the playoffs? Where can you guys improve? Where can you improve individually to make a deeper run, to close out some of those games where you had leads? Like when you look back and film, and you personally, where do you evaluate that at?
I would say the same thing. I think it's based on confidence, based on being more mature, understanding the moment, and stick together, togetherness. I feel like there's moments where I can be focused on me being more confident, and then somebody being more focused on being more together in that moment. And I feel like having players on different page throughout playoffs is very tough. Like everybody can have different mindset, they focus on different things, but if you go in with the right mindset, everybody's on the same page. We know what we're doing, we know the game plan, and we mature enough to understand the situation and everything. I feel like we are a very hard team to beat when we're on that type of mindset, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's moments where shots is not falling, so naturally your confidence might drop a little bit, and you try to regain your confidence, and everybody can be on different page. But I think, it's about maturity, understand the moment, and just going out there and hoop and be confident in what you do.
What are you going to do with your new glass ball?
What am I going to do with it? I'm going to put it next to the other one.
What did it mean to be recognized?
It means a lot. It means a lot, especially from an organization. Having the people you work for, work with, recognize what you do on a daily. I think it's very humbling, very grateful for these moments, and be able to represent my family and my loved ones that way and be recognized by others. I feel like there's no better feeling than that, and having a positive impact on the franchise. That's all I always wanted to do as a basketball player. So, yeah, very grateful for that.
All right. Thank you all.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, big thanks to Toumani Camara, who was able to share his thoughts. He's one of the Iron Men, and again, I mentioned Donovan Clingan, one of the guys on the roster I have very few concerns about. Toumani Camara is right up there on the list. I mean, he cares. He's going to work his tail off, and he'll continue to get better. I mean, the future is super bright for Toumani, and his availability, his toughness, his defense, he's everything you want in a basketball player. And I'm very happy that Cronin was, very strong in his negotiations to make sure that Toumani was a part of that deal a couple of years ago. And look at what he's done. He's come in and been a big-time difference maker. He sets the tone defensively. He's going to continue to get better with the three-point shot. He's beloved on the team. He sets the example. He plays hard. He does everything you want. Toumani Camara is perfect. He's exactly what you want in a basketball player. We still got more players coming up. It's a special edition of the Rip City Drive for Trailblazer Exit Interview Day. Sean Hyken, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, is there. He says about halfway through the exit interviews so far, there hasn't been one player that hasn't given a very strong endorsement of Thiago Splitter. And that's a very common theme. The players respect him. They really appreciate the way he dealt with them throughout the course of the year, and they understand the challenges that he went through taking over for Chauncey Billups, who was arrested after game 1 of the season. I mean, that's like Hollywood stuff. Or as Matisse said, he was handed a grenade, because that's the term they use when the guy gets a ball late in the shot clock. You got a grenade, you got to get rid of that bad boy. And that's what happened to Thiago. He was given the grenade, 1 game in. You're the acting head coach. And, oh, by the way, you're going to be top 5 in games lost due to injury, and you're going to have to utilize two-way players, and you're not going to have a point guard for an extended stretch, and Deni Avdija is going to have to transform into that player. And yet they made it through all of that. Finished strong, got through the play-in, won their game at Phoenix, and took on the Spurs as the 7th seed in the Western Conference. Exceeded the Vegas win total of 34.5, won 42 games, a 6-game improvement year over year. So all in all, nothing but positives in terms of Thiago Splitter. And if I'm evaluating, the coaching position, I would imagine Tom Dundon would look at the season and the way things played out with the adversity that they went through. I mean, you learned a lot about Thiago Splitter as a man, as a coach, as a leader throughout the course of one season based on all the different things they went through. Even Thiago said it a couple of weeks ago. It's like we went through everything that you could possibly go through as a team together. And they came out on the other side stronger. 503-248-0620. You can reach out to me. I'd love to hear your voice, your thoughts on the exit interviews, your thoughts on where this team needs to turn next. What's the most important thing they need to be able to improve throughout the course of the offseason? I think it's pretty obvious. Shooters, guys who can knock down shots, guys who can fill it up. They need to find guys who can be, better in their attack. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out. I'd love to hear your voice. What do you want to see done with Thiago Splitter? Do you want him to be the full-time head coach? What's the most important thing for the roster? Do you want them to go big game hunting? All right, let's do it. 503-248-0620. We'll come back, and we're going to hear more from exit interviews. In fact, we're going to do it right now. Damian Lillard has just stepped up to the podium, so we'll hear from Dame time.
Dame, how do you kind of come away from this season? Obviously, didn't play this year, but you did win a three-point contest. Team made it back to the playoffs. Kind of, what is your takeaway from this season, and kind of what are your hopes going forward in the offseason?
I would say my takeaway is just that we had a great season, in my opinion. Just taking a big step for our group, making it back to the playoffs. We experienced a lot of adversity, and there's a lot of opportunities for us to fold and kind of just pack it in, and we didn't. So I was proud just as a teammate, and being a part of this organization again, to just see how we responded to everything and find ourselves where we did, in the playoffs and in a competitive series.
What did you learn this year, not being able to play, but being around coaches, players, seeing everything that's going to help you when you do get back on the floor?
I think one of the things that was most helpful for me was being able to just watch the game up close the way I did without, having my emotions tied to it, not being on the floor. I was able to see the game a little bit differently, kind of
from a coach's perspective, like what should we do now? What is the other team trying to do? I was able to watch the game from that lens. I also got an opportunity to learn my teammates, I'm going to be playing with these guys and, just seeing what might set them off, seeing what they're doing when they play well, seeing where they might struggle, seeing where our team struggles, ways that I think we could improve just from the side, as a spectator. So I think, that was kind of my position throughout the season. But that was really it. I would say that that was my experience.
From that
Looking
coach's
at that,
perspective,
like, what do you
think Thiago did in his role? From that coaching perspective, how do you think Thiago did in that role?
I thought he did well. I think just being launched into that seat, as a head coach out of nowhere, unexpected, having to be a leader of men, in this league is tough. When you got to deal with minutes and managing personalities and rotations and things like that, it's tough. And I thought he did a great job doing it on the fly. As the season went on, I think he started to impose his style and, what he wanted to get done more and more. And, you could see it in how he used his voice and how he commanded, film sessions and huddles and things like that he settled in and got comfortable. And you could see his investment in the team and how successful he wanted the team to be. And I think a lot of our success down the stretch is because of, how much he put into it.
Obviously, you're coming back. What else do you think this team needs next season to take that next step?
I would say the number one thing for me is, just getting the experience that we got will help us a lot going forward, because you see what it feels like to have success and to come up short. And, my experience as a young player when I got my first taste of that, it just made me want to hurry up and get back and try to, make it right and go further. So I think that's like the one thing that I think will make us better is that we got there and we saw what it was like and we came up short. So that's one thing, but I think the obvious thing is, we just need to be a better shooting team. I think when you got a guy like Deni who's constantly getting downhill and in the paint and, forcing teams to have to help, it's going to generate good shots. It's going to generate opportunities, and we got to be able to capitalize on that. And, I'm going to be in the paint. I'm going to get around my guy, and teams are going to help. I know that I'll get attention, and it's going to lead to open shots as well. You got a guy like DC who's, probably the best offensive rebounder in the league. And, I think about somebody like Robin Lopez, who was the same way on the offensive glass, just getting offensive rebounds, and that led to a lot of threes for our teams. So those are just three situations right there where, like, we're going to have a lot of shots. And we got to be able to shoot the ball. We got to make shots and capitalize on those things. And that, I think that takes us up a level as a team right there. But that's something those are things that come to my mind right away, just being able to make shots and just our level of seriousness. When you are a younger team, you have a natural like looseness and freeness about you, and it helps you in a lot of ways because you're just free. You don't know what you don't know sometimes, and I think now is the seriousness that we can have, our approach to how we do everything, more serious about it. And I think we will be, like I said, based off of our experience. And I think that'll also, take us up a level.
There was a lot of talk over the last few weeks of you potentially having an early return. Was that something you actually mold, or was that all talk and not actually?
Was that something I actually would?
Mold. Was that something you thought about coming back for the playoffs?
I definitely thought about it. It wasn't, I never like put it out there like, hey, let's start a conversation about it. It was funny that it started to come up because I never really mentioned it. But I think how I started to go about the process, like in my daily stuff, and how I started to build up and how I looked, people probably was like,
But I definitely, had thought about it where it was like, depending on how far this goes, I would definitely have been eyeing a possibility of coming back. But I was also aware of, it's been a full season, and, our team is playing well, and, I wouldn't want to be disruptive to, where we had come to that point. And, fans and people who aren't the ones doing it, they would have expected like this heroic comeback, and it's like, bro, I haven't played in a whole year. And, even though I've been training, I know I would have been able to be productive, but that's giving me a lot of credit to think I'm going to just come back and just, go crazy. So
We've seen the videos of, what you're doing. Where are you at in your rehab? When do you think you'll be able to do some live run and stuff like that?
I've already started. Yeah.
How's that going?
It's going good.
So what does your summer look like?
Like it always looked, but a lot more live. Like I'll continue to keep playing like I've been playing, and I'll continue to just keep playing.
First time getting to talk to you since media day, so I was just curious what that day was like for you when everything came out about Chauncey, and just kind of what kind of effect that had on you, because I know he was a big reason why you came back here.
It was tough for me. I didn't even think about it from a basketball standpoint. I've known Chauncey for years and years, even before he became my coach. A lot of respect for him, and just to see him have to, have that experience, and all of the things that were up in the air and being said, and just not knowing anything about it, I just felt bad for him having to experience that, and that it had come to that. But that was my feelings on it. Like you said, I came back here. A big part of it was to play for him. And my respect for him as a coach. But my thoughts and my feelings went directly toward him and his family, just for the experience that I knew was to come.
What was it like for you just waking up that day at like 5:30 a.m. and seeing that come across your phone?
I think I was as shocked as everybody else.
Dame, obviously, it's going to depend on what happens in the offseason, but as of right now, what is your expectation for this team going into next year?
I think just looking at our depth and our versatility, from our size, the different lineups we can play, how many different guys can do things. And, the experience that we had this year, we beat all of the best teams. I thought we were competitive against everybody. And we got some playoff experience against a 60-win team, and we had our opportunities. This could have easily been 3-1 going back to San Antonio, had we held it down a little bit better in those two home games. So for me, I think now we have to be going into the summer looking at, like, man, how do we get to that point, where we in those 50, high 50s, trying to become one of those high 50, 60-win teams, because I think it's all there for us to do it. And I know the impact that I'm going to have on our team. I've not just on the floor, but just in our mentality and how we do our stuff on the daily. I'm just excited for people to see, like, they'll see. I'm excited for them to see what's to come.
Dame, what have your impressions been so far of Tom and the new ownership group now that they've been here for about a month?
Just that he's super competitive. And I think that's one place where we aligned right away. You can tell that he's super competitive. And he has a mind of his own. And, I respect that. And obviously, you guys have been around this league, and it's a different league. You come into it, and there's a lot of things that you got to learn. That goes for players, that goes for coaches, that goes for management, scouting. Regardless of how you come into the NBA, it's a lot of things that you have to pick up and learn about the NBA, and that goes for ownership as well. And I think he's doing that. You see him around all the time, and he's picking up
what the league is about and how it is. And he'll get to that point where he understands exactly what the NBA is like and what it is. And I know that just from being around him and talking to him. So, like I said, I respect him, I like his mentality. And, we'll see how things continue to unfold.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, there's Damian Lillard. You had a chance to hear from him. I'll react to that. We'll keep things rolling. Special edition of the Rip City Drive on exit interview day. We're going to have more from the practice facility when we come back. You can jump on board, 503-248-0620. Your reaction to Dame sounds like he's ready to come back. And as I anticipated, he may have thought about coming back, but that was never seriously in the works. No way. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Last year, but it seemed like this year was when you really kind of got.
All right, let's head back to the practice facility. Here is Deni Avdija.
I feel like I had a good year. I didn't also know what I'm capable of, but honestly saying, I couldn't do it by myself. I couldn't do it without my teammates. I couldn't do it without the coaches that came in and pushed me every day, pushed me to be a better player, a better leader, a better guy. And my teammates that trusted me and throughout the whole season, throughout the bad losses, throughout the great wins. But yeah, individually, I'm happy with the progress I made. I still think I have a lot of things to improve and become even better at. I think I'm gonna call it some sort of like my rookie year, because I've never been in those situations, never been in the playoffs, never really had the chance to be one of the leaders of a team. And I'm human, and I wasn't great at that all the time, and I want to be great at it. I want to be better at it, and I had a lot of fun learning from this year and experience what I've experienced with those group of guys.
You said there's some areas you want to get better at. What are some of those?
I would just say maybe be more composed in certain areas. I feel like a lot of times, there's situations that I get into a game and my piece is interrupted and I get sped up. We can talk about skill as well, which is, a lot of teams are going to prepare and they know me right now, and maybe have different solutions, learn how to drive both ways, be a better defender, a better leader, be more vocal. But in general, I think I don't need to overthink it. I have great coaching staff and great organization that knows what they need from me and what I need to do to help this team become better. Other than that, yeah.
Deni, speaking of the coaching staff, are you hopeful that Thiago's back next year?
I think Thiago did a great job. I think, as I said in past interviews, he got thrown in not an easy situation. And I think he got the best of all of us. I think he believed in all of us. I think he did a great job of connecting this group, of making sure we're always positive. And credit also, to the assistants behind the scenes. Thiago's in the front and he's doing a great job. I think in general our whole coaching staff has worked night and day for us to become better, watching film, come up with game plans. But I definitely love Thiago. I love playing for him. And, it was a great run.
Deni, how do you feel like you acquitted yourselves in the playoffs? Your first time there and your first time having that kind of concentrated focus from an opponent, game in, game out. How do you feel like you handled that, and how do you develop and get better in those moments?
I don't know how to assess how I dealt with it. I felt like, obviously San Antonio is not an easy team. Very aggressive, very good defensively. I think I was ready for them to be physical with me, but I never really felt that playoff physicality. I think I didn't back off. I think I wasn't scared of anything. I left it all on the floor. I had a pleasure and I had a lot of fun doing it with my teammates that I've been fighting with the whole year. And I feel like also, as I said, I felt like it's kind of was my rookie year, because I've never been in this position, in this situation before. I never had that amount of detail and focus from an opponent on me, and I felt it throughout the series. I think that helped me realize what I need to develop in terms of my skills to be even more effective and better and help my team even more next year. But I think it was solid, I guess, I want to say.
Deni, there was a stretch starting in mid-late November for 30 or so games where there was no point guard. And to your point, you're asked to do things that you haven't been asked to do, and now your responsibilities have grown. How much did that stretch just kind of help your overall game and unlock things that you didn't know were there?
Yeah, I came back to kind of my roots and how I kind of started playing basketball, which is kind of initiate and being aggressive, going downhill. and I had a chance to do it this year for a big stretch, and I felt like, for me, the experience of having this opportunity was great. I think I needed that for my game. I needed to see what I can do and to unlock my potential. And at the end of the day, my job was make sure that I get everybody involved, I get everybody, open shots, and just making the right play every time.
You thought about playing next to Dame and what he'll bring, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, me and Dame had conversations throughout the year. Obviously, I know Dame is a great player, and he has a lot of things we need. And obviously, as a leader, as a person, he's a great guy and fun to be around. And as I said, he's a competitor, and I think we both have mutual goals, and we both love each other's game, and I think we really can do great things together and as a team for sure.
אם נלך אחורה שנה מהיום, לסוף עונה שעברה בתחילת העלייה, יכולת לדמיין או להאמין שאתה תסיים עונה כאולסטאר וכשחקן שנלחם חזק בפלייאוף? ואם כן, מה אתה יכול לדמיין ולהאמין להמשך בשבילך ובשביל הקבוצה?
All right, here's your Hebrew portion of the exit interviews today.
למה שאתה יכול להשיג ולמה שבאמת אפשר להגיע. נהניתי, ולא יותר מדי חשבתי על מה יהיה עוד חודש או עוד חודשיים. בתחילת השנה לא חשבתי על להיות אולסטאר, חשבתי איך אני מגיע הכי טוב לעונה ואיך אני משחק את המשחקים של העונה הכי טוב.
And when they start back into English, we'll bring Deni Avdija back up. I love what he said about Dame. My biggest question mark now going into next season would be, Deni and Dame together on the floor. It's quite clear that the team is at their best when Deni's got the ball in his hands. And how does Dame adjust? How does he adapt his game to work with Deni Avdija, who's a different type of player than what Dame's had in the past? Because Deni needs the ball in his hands. And Deni can make Dame's life easier by, the drive and the kick. And I want to see how Dame adjusts to being able to work without the ball in his hands. That's really what I'm excited about.
How frustrating was it to deal with your back injury, and did you ever really recover from that?
I can say it's behind me. It was frustrating because it was lingering. And, with this type of injury, you got to make a decision because I knew it's not going to get worse. I don't want to say that the medical did not put me in any risk. I could have played. But the fact that it's still there and it's still lingering and you're playing with some sort of pain, it's rough sometimes. You have to reinvent yourself. You gotta understand how you move more efficiently. And I feel like I was in a good rhythm, and then it kind of broke my rhythm. But everything happens for good. I feel like there's a reason for everything. Maybe I needed a little bit of a break. But other than that, I just kept fighting through it. I was I didn't want any excuse. I know the team needed me. I wanted to be there. And I just do what I can to play with it and to be as effective as I can be.
אין לנבחרת משימות גדולות הקיץ. איך זה ישפיע על העבודה שלך בקיץ הזה וההכנה לקראת העונה הבאה?
היה לי חלונות, היה לי קיצים שהייתי בלי הנבחרת, שלא היה מחויבות. פשוט תמשיך באותה דרך, אין כל כך מה לחשוב.
Deni, I know the season just got done, so maybe you haven't kind of thought about it too much, but do you have any expectations for next season, like what you would like the team to achieve, particularly coming off of what you guys were able to do this season?
I'd just like to see the progress. I feel like to get better every season. Last year we didn't make the playoffs. This year we had more wins. We made the playoffs. And next year I hope to create some and get some damage in the playoffs and go even further. I think there is good core here. There is great organization and great coaches, great staff to help us build on what we did this year. And I think Rip City is in good hands. Thank you, guys.
All right, there's the great Deni Avdija. What a season he had. There's nothing I don't love about Deni Avdija. Just a stand-up guy. He improved so much this year. He plays with great emotion, toughness. He carried the franchise on his shoulders for an extended stretch when so many guys were out with injury. And I love Deni. He's my favorite guy on the team right now. Love watching him play. Love the way he competes. He's a versatile player, but really proud of the way he was able to take on that responsibility of running the offense and having everything run through him and being the primary facilitator. Like, that is a tough role, and yet he was able to do it. Big fan of Deni Avdija. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. It's a special edition of the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing following the end of the Trailblazers season on Tuesday and with exit interviews taking place right now. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. If you want to chime in and share your thoughts on anything we've heard today here at exit interviews, probably the most interesting thing that was said was Thiago Splitter saying that he, twice during his interview, has a good relationship with Tom Dundon and Joe Cronin, and also said a lot of the reporting right now is, quote, clickbait regarding the Trailblazers head coaching position. Not a surprise, right? When I saw that report that came out, I think it was yesterday, that the Trailblazers were moving on from Thiago. I mean, that's total nonsense. If the Blazers are going to move on from Thiago and had already made that decision, they would announce that he is being relieved of his duties today. He may not even have spoke at exit interviews. So, yeah, the decision hasn't been made. And he obviously is a leader in the clubhouse. He just went through an incredible season with mass adversity, and he overcame and took this team to amazing success. Of course he is in the mix for the head coaching position. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to get the job, but he's in the mix. And Tom Dundon, I know this to be true, he is going through the process of trying to learn everything he possibly can about the NBA and the business to be able to make the best possible decisions. And that's really what it's about. Now, even Thiago said that he's actively learning the NBA so that he can better evaluate his coaches, what they do well, what they don't do well. It really is part of the process. So we have not heard from Joe, and we have not heard from Scoot Henderson, but we've heard from a majority of the players. I thought Robert Williams was great. I thought Donovan Clingan was terrific. Matisse Thybulle, always very insightful. Jrue Holiday was awesome. Dame was terrific. And I'm anxious to hear from Scoot. We heard from Shaedon, Toumani. We heard from Jerami Grant. So we have heard from the majority of players, and we just heard from Deni. So we still need to hear from, I don't know if we're going to hear from Sidy Cissoko or not. My guess would be that we will. We have not heard from Scoot. We heard from Chris Murray. We have not heard from Blake Wesley. So most of the players are done. And we still have not heard from the general manager, Joe Cronin. But we're going to keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive as we get ready to enter the offseason. Keep in mind the Blazers do not own a draft pick in the upcoming NBA draft. So their main work is going to be, once the new league year kicks off, we get to the draft, we get to free agency, and we'll see what type of deals the Blazers are able to facilitate. Are they going to be aggressive? Will they go big game hunting? Are they going to be able to put some trades together? That's really what it's all about. Now, coming up tonight, we have an NBA playoff triple header, which kicks off at 4 on ESPN. The Knicks are in Atlanta to face the Hawks after back-to-back wins in the series in games 4 and 5. New York looks to close out the Hawks tonight. They're favored by 2.5. At 5 o'clock on NBC and Peacock, Celtics are in Philadelphia to take on the Sixers. Boston right now favored by 6.5. Philadelphia upset Boston in Game 5. Now they have a chance to get a home win and force a Game 7 back in Boston. And then at 6:30 on ESPN, one of my favorite series so far in the first round, Nuggets, Timberwolves from Minnesota. Minnesota's got a 3-2 series lead. They can close it out tonight at Target Center But the big question here is, will the Wolves have enough without their key players? Dante DiVincenzo and, of course, Anthony Edwards. And those are the big questions. Are they going to have enough? And we're going to find out. But I like the way that, the Nuggets and Timberwolves have competed. I like Jaden McDaniels calling out the entire Nuggets squad, and then the Wolves proceed to go out and win the next two games. Denver had a nice bounce back, did a much better job in terms of physicality, forcing turnovers, getting out in transition in Game 5. They got the win there. And we'll see how things continue to shake out. But we are set up for some potential terrific second-round matchups. The Spurs are waiting. They're going to take on the winner of the Nuggets and Timberwolves. And then in the other series, we're going to have the Thunder against either the Lakers or the Rockets. And the Rockets last night went into Crypto.com Arena and won Game 5. That series now 3-2. Lakers won the first 3. Rockets have won the last 2. And they're going to head back to Houston for Game 6. So that series looks like it's headed to a Game 7. And the Lakers, a lot of turnovers and mistakes last night. LeBron 0 for 6 from downtown. And the Rockets get the win. And the question is, with the injuries the Lakers have, no Luka, are the Rockets primed and in a position to be the first team to come back from a 0-3 deficit? Normally I would say no, but I do think this is headed towards a Game 7. And if that happens, the Rockets are going to have a lot of confidence going into that, and there's no Luka for the Lakers. And the problem is, I think Charles Barkley pointed this out last night, the longer the series goes, the more you're going to see the age start to pop up for LeBron. With the efficiency, the fatigue, and everything that starts to set in. It's going to become a problem. But you can jump on board, 503-248-0620. That's the telephone number. Any thoughts on the Blazers, if you want to share them? Anything from the exit interviews you've heard? You can let me know what you think. What would you like to see this team go after during the offseason? I thought Dame pointed that out. It's not a surprise. He's like, we need to be better shooters. And he's right. This is a terrific song, by the way. Nice work, Shacker. All right, we'll keep things rolling. It's Exit Interview Day, special edition of the Rip City Drive. We still have to hear from Scoot and Joe Cronin. You've got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Trailblazers, Rip City Radio 620. Whoa. Yeah, Shacker pointed out that the reason why Eddie Money made funny faces in his music videos was likely because of cocaine. I just know that he had a great singing voice. He's got a ton of great songs. Rest in peace, Eddie Money. All right, we're still waiting for more from the practice facility. Joe Cronin, we anticipate. Scoot Henderson. And those are the two big names that have yet to speak to the media today that we're waiting to hear from. But it's a special edition of the Rip City Drive here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. I hope you're enjoying your Thursday. And it's a little bizarre for me because the season is now over. And so I'm transitioning into a different type of lifestyle now. And I'm looking forward to it because golf season's right around the corner. And I was looking at the extended forecast. It is looking pretty good over the next week. A lot of sunshine, a lot of warm temperatures, a lot of clear skies coming our way, which is great. I'm excited about it. I'm pumped. And I'm excited about the offseason for the Blazers because I like where they stand, knowing, that they're going to have a chance to build off of a successful season and come back even better. And I believe they will because they got the pieces in place to be able to make that happen. And on top of that, you've got a situation where you have draft picks, you've got contracts, you've got different, tools that you can work with. It's great. All right, let's head back to the practice facility. I know that Scoot Henderson is stepping up to the podium. Let's listen to Scoot.
Something's different. Here, look, it's a shirt. That's it.
And he's got a fresh do.
First off, Scoot, just how do you come away from the season? Kind of your thoughts and emotions about the way you guys played this season, the journey you guys went on, and also individually, kind of after missing so much time, how do you view back on your performance this season?
Yeah. Well, I say for an overview of the season, more specifically, I think just as a team we were very resilient in the way we approached the game, the way we approached every game this season, the way we approached the season in general. We had a lot of ups and downs as a team, injuries, whatever it may have been, but everybody came the next day prepared and ready to play and ready to get on the floor and give our fans something to applaud at. So I got to say thank you to my teammates for that, to just be resilient. And for me, just overcoming injury, a long-term injury that I never, ever experienced. And that right there was tough, but man, my faith in the man above, he always will help me out in the long run. So,
what was the message from Joe and others in your exit interview today?
I think for me, just continue to be defensively sound and continue to grow. This summer is going to be a great summer, and just continue to be healthy.
For you last year, by all accounts, you had a great summer, and then the injury happened and it set you back and you didn't get to play. I think a lot of folks were excited to see what that summer was going to lead to for you. Do you feel like you got to where you wanted to, or is that something that another summer, more work is going to get you to that place where you had hoped to be after last year?
I'm right where I'm supposed to be, man. The man above don't make no mistakes, for one. But I feel like this summer would be another great summer, For all accounts, more work, I'll be better. The team will be better, coaching staff, whatever. We'll all be better for next season.
Scoot, what can you say about the job that Thiago did this year?
And it was amazing. I think just having to be put in that role and lead a team to first round of playoffs. We only had one win, but I think it was kind of special that Thiago, former player, kind of took that role, and he didn't second guess it. He stepped up, put his chest out, and said what he had to say to all of us, and he was honest about it, and he cheered us all on.
What will your summer look like? Where will your focus be?
I think my focus would be just finishing at the rim, a lot of finishing at the rim, continue to work on my shot, and then more specifically just by body, keeping my body healthy, keeping it strong, because I know how kind of the postseason feels a little bit. And, you know, even though I only played probably 40, 30-some games, I didn't play 82 like Toumani, but just seeing how that playoff felt and knowing that we could go even further, I think that's going to be a big part of next year, of just keeping that body and making sure it's healthy throughout the way.
There were some videos last offseason of you working out with Jrue. Have you guys talked about connecting again during the summer to get in the gym?
Man, all of us. I think all of us are. Obviously, I'm going to give my teammates some time to kind of relax. And, you know, guys like Toumani, he's like, nah, I'm not trying to relax. I see how this feels, and I'm back. Like, we're trying to get to the finals. So that's where his mindset is, and I'm like, that's what I like to see, and that's what you love to see out of your defensive leader, out of Toumani Camara. And I think, yeah.
Scoot, how do you think you fit with Dame? You guys playing together next year?
Honestly, I've been playing off the ball more and on the ball, so it'd be special just to see how that pans out. You know, Dame was one of my favorite players growing up. I always used to play 2K, and I used to have like 60, 50 with him. So being his teammate, you know, and actually playing alongside him, I think it'd be great, man. Just for Rip City to see, and for all the other guys to just be a part of. I think it'd be fun, like just having a guy like Dame on our squad to playing on our squad at least.
At that point, having Dame, when you're sitting out for 50-plus games, and he's right there with you, and Jrue was out for a lot of that time, to have those veterans and see what they're watching, how they're processing things, and then how they're approaching the game, how much did that help you in the time that you were out to be able to grow in that time despite not playing?
I think obviously they have their own injuries and things going on that they are dealing with at the time, and I didn't want to like kind of be that person in there like, so what you think about this? But sometimes you got to do that to, you know, get better, and as a teammate just pick your teammate's brain. So it was I'm not going to say it was cool because we were all injured so it was not cool at all, but for us to kind of be 1, 2, 3, it was like, wow, I'm really going through a similar situation with two amazing players in this league, and I kind of just see how they approach every day, and they approach every day with the mindset of, I'm gonna get better today, and that's kind of my approach. That is my approach, and my thing is to be overly determined to dominate every single day, and that kind of just summed up like, this is where I want to go. Like, I want to approach every day, and I want to get better, healthier, whatever it is, stronger. And Dame came in every day and did his thing, had his family time, and man, it was fun to watch. You know, I'm not like the person to just sit there and be like, so what do you think this? But like, if it's really bothering me, I'll ask him. But yeah.
Scoot, when you take a look at this season, so many roles change for so many guys, and in your career, you've been more of a playmaker, but it feels like the last month, 6 weeks, that role kind of shifted for you. You talk about playing off ball, but you've been so much more of a scorer. Was that an edict that kind of came from the coaching staff? Is that something that you guys kind of talked through, or where did that kind of originate from?
Honestly, no, man. I just accepted the role. I'm like, well, if I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to help my team somehow, you know, and that's just trying to put the ball in the bucket and be defensively locked in. And whenever I'm on the floor, I try to just, you know, maximize my time. And it'd be games where I look back and I'm like, you didn't do that there. So I'm just every day is just the thought of like, no, maximize your time. Whatever time you get in, you don't expect anything back from it. Don't expect to bring it up every single time. So I think it's just a matter of being comfortable in anything, and that's what you work on in the summer for. You work on a couple situations, but I think for change, you work on anything that happened and change, and that's what I did. I was prepared for it, and I worked the summer for it, worked while I was injured, and just try to come back and help my team win games. That was my mission.
Was there anything specific in you that triggered that mindset change? Because when you first came back from the injury, you were still trying to create a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, if I get up top, I feel like whenever I bring it up, I try to create. I don't want to be that player to just come down, especially as a point guard, come down, because I could take a shot every single time if I really wanted to as a point guard, but you try to get guys involved. That's what point guards do. Jason Hart, my Ignite coach, he said, are you a point guard or a points guard? And that was just, I thought about that during this whole situation. I'm like, well, I guess I'm a points guard at this point, just try to get the ball up. But whenever I do get it, I just try to make that decision, okay, attack or make a play.
Scoot, you're extension eligible this summer. Is that something you hope gets done, or do you see yourself here long term?
By the grace of God, whatever God got in store, man. Obviously, you hope for the better, and you hope that the organization wants to keep you and things like that. But, man, whatever the man has in plan, I'm with it. I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to work hard this summer and show them that I love it here. But
looking at the next season, what's the next step for you?
Go deeper in the playoffs. I think that's my next step as a player, and as a team, that's all of our next step. Go deep in the playoffs, get to the finals, try to win the finals. That's my mission, and honestly, whatever it takes in the summer, whatever it takes throughout the season, that takes me running up hills this summer, I'll do it just to stay conditioned and things like that. But I feel like my mission is just to continue to get better on both sides of the ball. Like, I know who I am, who I can be on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's what I'm going to try to do better at.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scoot.
All right, there's Scoot Henderson. Had a chance to talk, and one thing I learned about Scoot is I love his just his demeanor, his attitude, his approach, the way he carries himself. Big fan of Scoot Henderson. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We heard from Scoot. Now just waiting really to hear from Joe Cronin and his assessment on the season and how everything went down. That's the big deal. Well, you could chime in if you'd like. You want to jump on board, 503-248-0620. A little matinee RipCityDrive for you today with the exit interviews. And that's really what it's all about. The Blazers, big offseason coming up. They got a new owner. A lot of questions about who's going to be the coach. And that is that. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We may get Young Hansen potentially. Still waiting to hear from Joe Cronin. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Some of the most interesting things that we've heard today, Thiago Splitter, about his situation, says he has a great relationship with Tom Dundon and Joe Cronin. He does want to come back and be coach. And he said a lot of the reporting that's out there right now is, quote, clickbait. So it was great to hear. I mean, not just once but twice mentioned that he had a good relationship with Tom Dundon, so that's good to hear. Dame, was very direct when he said what he thinks the team needs, and that's shooters, guys that can make threes and take advantage of their offensive rebounding capabilities. Toumani Camara spoke, and you can tell he's going to be determined to come back and improve upon their performance in the postseason in their playoff series against San Antonio. Scoot thinks that he can work with Dame or anyone that he plays with because, he was on ball and off ball this year. Jrue Holiday enjoys Portland. He said the winter was much more mild than what he anticipated, but he likes what he has. And Matisse Thybulle had great things to say about the group in terms of all the different things that they've overcome this season. And they did. And that's probably what I'm most proud of with this group. It's just if you look at all the obstacles that were in front of them throughout the course of the season, with injuries, with Chauncey Billups being taken out of action, two-way players having to play significant minutes, no legitimate point guard for an extended stretch, all of these different things just added up to most franchises would fail. But the Blazers thrived. They were able to overcome. They improved 6 games year over year, had a winning record, got to the play-in, won their first game against Phoenix, and made it to the postseason. I mean, really, by any metric, no matter how you measure it, it was a smashing success for the Blazers this year. And they exceeded the Vegas win total of 34.5. So, really, if you look at the game plan right now, the first thing, they've got to resolve the coaching situation. figure out who's going to be the coach. If it's Thiago Splitter, get that deal done. And then they'll move into draft night with no picks, first or second round, and they can prepare for the offseason and make a determination on how aggressive they want to be. Are they going to focus on internal development? Are they going to go after a big name? What's the approach for the team as they get into the offseason, the meat of it? And then for the players that are on the roster that we know are going to come back, it's about getting in the gym, putting in the time, and getting that internal development, which is critical. And if they do those things, the team's going to be in a really good spot. But my mood or my thought process, my attitude towards the team now compared to the end of the season over the last few years, totally different. I was optimistic after last season because I saw the growth of the young guys and knew that they had some good pieces in place. So I was pretty bullish on them when the year began. I thought they would win 45 games. They won 42. But next year, it's like they enter into the season in a different realm. Playoffs is the expectation. And really all they need, the biggest ingredient they're going to need, regardless of what they do to the roster, is just health. Guys remaining healthy so you don't deal with and have one of the top 5 teams in the league with games lost due to injury. And if they have health and they have the guys available, they're going to win games. And they're going to be in the mix in the Western Conference. The problem is you look around the West and you see teams like San Antonio and Oklahoma City, they have star power. They got depth. They got versatility. There are dangerous teams out there. Denver, Minnesota. Houston's going to be good because they'll get their point guard back. A lot of good competition in the Western Conference, so you can't necessarily stand pat. You've got to be looking around at different ways where you can improve your roster, make your team deeper, more versatile, so you have a chance to go out there and compete on a nightly basis with the best teams in the West. And then when the playoffs come, you've got the ability to go out and scratch out wins, where you can be tough-minded defensively, where you have guys that can knock down threes, where you have the resourcefulness to be able to grab offensive rebounds and get second-chance points. And they've got some of those ingredients right now, but it is a process. And, the Blazers right now, I like where they're at. They're on an upward trajectory, and they've got pieces in place, tools that are available to where they can go out and improve. And what more could you ask for as a Trailblazer fan? 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can jump on board. We're still waiting. We may hear from Young Hansen. We're hoping to hear from Joe Cronin. But we'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back and more from the practice facility. It's a special edition of the Rip City Drive. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. We got an NBA playoff triple header coming up tonight. Boston and Philadelphia. Denver and Minnesota. And we've also got the Knicks and the Hawks from Atlanta. All right, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Well, the one common word that we've heard brought up today in regard to this year's version of the Trailblazers, resilient. And I would agree with that assessment. And we're still waiting to see if we're going to hear from any more players or potentially Joe Cronin. Let's go out to the phones. Pat wants to chime in. Pat, I appreciate the call. What's your takeaway from the exit interviews today?
Oh, they've been excellent, to be honest. I think that players have been pretty open and honest, and I think there's been a lot of things said, and I know there's going to be a few guys not here next year, but I think the team has got a pretty good focus on where they need to be next year if injuries stay out of the way. And my question to you, because I don't stay on top of this part of it too much, is how much dead money do we have sitting on the books for next year? You know, do we have to still pay Chauncey, or do we have some contracts that are still out there that we have to pay people that are not here or whatever with the new owner? I mean, do we have anything tying his hands so he can't go out and deal with, you know, maybe a free agent that might be out of our price range?
All right, I appreciate the phone call, my friend. That's Pat in Portland. Let me dive into that. First off, with Chauncey Billups, he is still the head coach of the Trailblazers. He has not been let go. He is in the middle of a, potential trial, or is facing trial, and so the Blazers are going to let that play out before they make a decision on Chauncey. Because if they let him go now, before the legal process plays out, they'll have to pay him out. They'd have to buy out the contract and pay him off. If he's found guilty, then they can fire him for cause and not have to pay anything for that. So that's where they're at with Chauncey Billups. But again, there's no salary cap for coaches, so you're not restricted in any way, shape, or form to go out and hire a new head coach, even if you're paying a buyout for another guy like Chauncey Billups. So there's no restriction with head coaches whatsoever. In regard to their current, salary cap situation, they're not going to be big spenders in free agency because they don't have the cap space to go out and buy a big-time player. So anything that they do would have to be done via trades. So that's really what they're looking at. And in regards to, I'm trying to see if there's any other players that they bought out that are still on the books. Who is it? Is it Keljin Blevins? I don't think there's any. They don't have no restrictions, but they're not going to have a lot of cap space to work with. Or is it Didi Luzada? Yeah, dead cap money. Didi Luzada at like $268,000. So no, there's no restrictions on the Blazers. They just don't have a lot of free cap space to be able to go out and buy a big name free agent. So anything they do of note's going to have to be via trade. And just like always, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And I think that's going to do it for us. What we'll do with the Rip City Drive tomorrow is we'll hear from Joe Cronin, who is yet to speak, and we'll get his thoughts on the season and the team and everything moving forward. But I want to thank Michael Shacker. Good phone calls today. I appreciate your time. We move now into the offseason. Again, the NBA draft is the next big flagpole that's up. No picks for the Blazers in the draft, and then we move on to free agency. All right, enjoy your Thursday, and I appreciate you.